Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today we're going to talk about 10 NBA rookies across the league. I'm super excited to break down some of the most exciting rookies, a few of the top picks, guys like that. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see is completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? Nothing important going on today in my life in the sports world. No big games, nothing that has me uneasy or anxious or excited or anything. Just a normal Sunday afternoon, evening when it comes to sports and my fandom.
Very normal day for you. Nothing happening here. Not a superhuman 6'5" quarterback that you have to deal with on the other side.
He's so good.
He's quite good, isn't he?
He's really
quite
good. Yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes also quite good at football.
He's not bad. Not bad.
By the time most people listen to this, you will know whether or not Bryce's heart has been broken or he is very happy with the result. But we're recording this at 4:30 Eastern time on Sunday, so this is exciting. But Bryce, we want to talk about NBA rookies today.
Yes,
we thought this would be a good time just to kind of get away from the trade deadline stuff.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot happening, I feel like, right now. Yeah, we can talk about, I guess, like more of the Jimmy stuff, but we just did like 30 minutes on Jimmy Butler on Friday. So like, if you want to go and listen to trade deadline stuff, I had a few trade ideas that I threw out there. I had a few different things that we talked about. By all means, go and listen to that show. But I am really, really excited just to talk about the rookie class because we probably haven't done that in the last, month and a half. Like rookies come up on the show, but I do breakdowns on the YouTube channel pretty regularly on rookies. I'll have another one coming today on Kel'el Ware, maybe tomorrow, I guess, Monday in the United States. On Kel'el Ware, because I wanted to kind of really jump into what's happening with him, and we'll talk about him a little bit more today. So it's a fascinating rookie class. It remains one that I am not particularly enthused by. There is no true rookie of the year, it feels like, this year. All due respect to Jaylen Wells and Edey and Castle and all those guys like actually genuinely competing for the award. It just feels like a Malcolm Brogdon style rookie of the year race this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's a class that I guess if you predicted what it would end up being, it's kind of been that in terms of, I don't know that anybody's shown like, oh my gosh, this is going to be face of your franchise type player. I don't even know that you can pinpoint the guy who's like a number 2 on your team in the next 5 or so years. And somebody will, right? Like McCain scored the ball at extremely high level and before he got hurt. I do think what we've seen is, and this isn't always what you're looking for in the top 5 in the lottery, we've seen Risacher start a bunch of games on a team in the play-in right now. We've seen Steph Castle play. We've seen Jaylen Wells and Zaccarie Risacher play a ton of games, start a ton of games for a Western Conference top 3 seed. We haven't talked about a guy I'm going to bring up, and that's Ron Holland, who plays rotational minutes for a team that doesn't stink, like a team that's, above 500 in the Eastern Conference and on down the list. We don't need to name all of them right now. It's just, we have seen guys who are like, oh, maybe they will at least carve a role out for themselves. And that's still valuable in the NBA, even if teams weren't able to take that big swing on a guy that's going to really, really change the trajectory of their franchise.
Yeah, that feels right to me. Like this rookie class, as with all rookies, right? Like we want to be very clear about that when we talk about this, but this class does seem to have a few more flaws, I guess. Like Jared McCain is an unbelievable scorer, and we saw that throughout the course of the year. We're not going to talk a ton about McCain because, he's been out for the last month or so, really. maybe even longer than that at this point. Just kind of going off memory on the last time I watched him play, I feel like. But McCain has like real defensive issues that he has to work through to be able to like say, yeah, I feel great about where this is going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like truly, truly great. I feel really good if I'm a Philly fan, and I feel really good if I'm that Philly front office having selected him. But there are things to work out, including the fit between him and Tyrese Maxey as well, right? Steph Castle, like I feel really great about Steph Castle. Steph Castle can't shoot right now.
Yeah.
And shooting is essential in the NBA. And you know, I struggle to find that like real dude right now. I think if you made me pick one, I think I might say Castle. Of like it'd be Castle, or like Sarr's not going to be like a number one or a number two offensive player, but you can see where it's going with him a little bit in terms of the skill set. I do worry a little bit about the hands the more I watch. That continues to be a significant issue. But yeah, like there are a lot of really good players. Zach Edey's a really good player in Memphis. Like last night, the way that he just like manhandled Drew Eubanks was pretty hilarious. If you are smaller than him, he is just going to make your life very difficult. But yeah, there's just a lot to still work through, I think, this class.
The other thing I say is like the second round has provided value for teams. We mentioned Jaylen Wells already. We've talked a lot about AJ Mitchell with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Those guys were selected on back-to-back picks in the late 30s. Oso has played a little bit for the Phoenix Suns. Now, obviously, if they were super happy there, maybe they don't make the Nick Richards trade, but still. So, like, there's Jamal Shead is a guy I want to talk about because that was a guy you were super high on. I wasn't quite as high on, and I always enjoy watching him play whenever I turn on a Raptors game. So I think that's the other thing. You know, that listen, you're not going to hit on a ton of second rounders. There's a bunch of guys that haven't, you know, seen the floor or, you know, whatever. But those are 5 guys in the top 15 picks of the second round who have played some minutes, and a couple of those guys for really good teams in this league.
Yeah. So let's kind of just jump into it. Okay. Right. So the way that we structured this was I picked 5 rookies to talk about. You picked 5 to talk about. I kind of figure within, you know, this we'll jump around and talk about a few different players as we go. Right. So the first one that I picked was Kel'el Ware. I do want to talk about Kel'el Ware, of course, because what he's done really over the last week, I guess, is probably the, you know, only time that we've seen him play super, super well this year. And his game, you know, against Brooklyn last night was kind of a mess, but the 3 before that were just ridiculous. He had 22 and 10 against Milwaukee. He had 20 and 15 against Portland, and he had 25 and 8 against San Antonio. 2 of those were losses, but you know, whatever. And then he had 9 and 7, honestly, against Denver in 16 minutes and looked pretty good there too. They're starting him now, you know, right next to Bam Adebayo, which is really exciting. As I watch him, and I'm really excited to do the video on him because I've watched these 3 games now, and he just feels like a baby deer, like who doesn't totally know what to do all the time, but he's so athletic that he's just able to be productive in a lot of ways. He's really, really fun. I don't totally know what to do with him yet in terms of where it will like land and like with his ceiling, but it is the ceiling is very high. Like full disclosure, like I did not love Kel'el Ware coming out of Oregon and Indiana. I didn't love the defensive effort. I didn't love the second and third efforts. It seems like that whole situation at Indiana was just a total catastrophe, potentially the way that it looks right now. He was super productive again in Indiana, but like it was productive in ways that I wasn't sure would translate, but he had very obvious tools that translate, right? He had these awesome, you know, traits in terms of his ability to run, in terms of his ability to jump. You could just see real touch all the time. But then you watch him now and like he does this thing where he kind of fades away from the rim when he tries to finish a decent amount because like he's just not strong enough yet. And he has kind of a slight frame that you worry about him ever really putting on like functional strength where he's going to like move anybody around. But man, there are tools here that are amazing. I am curious to see what Miami is able to do with it. The thing I will say that I feel like has changed, the effort has changed this year already. Like he plays hard consistently. Getting him up to that level is honestly a huge win because he's definitely an NBA player as long as he consistently does that. Now, is it a starter? Is it like one of the best backup bigs in the league, like in a Bobby Portis way? We'll see where it lands. But if I was a Miami fan, I'd be really excited because the ceiling is extremely high if it starts to all come together here.
Yeah, and I mean, even going back to pre-draft stuff, like there was real ceiling, but like you could see what the ceiling could be with him because there was a skill level there, the ability to space the floor, just the lob gravity that he has with his athleticism, ability to get out in transition and run in straight lines. I'm glad you brought up like kind of how hard he plays because that's one thing I noticed watching this Pacers game recently was like a couple times in the fourth quarter, just had recovery blocks and contests. Like there's some real nuance with what he does defensively that still has to grow. Like he's not always in the right spot. And I think he goes for shot blocks a little bit too much, giving up offensive rebound opportunities. But honestly, with Kel'el Ware, if he's playing hard, I'm going to live with all of that stuff right now. And he showed some of that in this game. And that was one of the biggest things, you know, but again, back to the skill level, had a short roll catch and finish in traffic. He has a trail catch and shoot 3-point attempt that looked confident and fluid. Like all of those things are really intriguing. It's funny. He does look like a baby deer out there, but I also don't think he looks like he doesn't belong while he looks like a baby deer out there. And so
yeah,
it's been intriguing to see as somebody like you. Listen, I had those questions going back to North Little Rock High School when he was playing with Nick Smith Jr. And it carried with him. And I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't know. The tools were always there. It's awesome. We said it on draft night that is there a better place for Kel'el Ware to end up than Miami?
Yeah, totally.
Probably not. And so far it's really shown to be true. And yeah, I mean, at number 15, right? Like that's a heck of a get if he continues, even if he doesn't like huge strides, but just figures out a little bit more defensively, right? Like got to be in the right spot. Can't go for every block, the little more nuanced things.
Yeah. I think I said on draft night, like you said, like Miami's the perfect spot for him. If I was Miami particularly, and I had that ability to get guys to play hard, I would have had Kel'el Ware much higher on their team specific board than I would have had on like another team's board, right? Who doesn't have quite as good of a track record of getting these guys to play hard. And look, like here's the other thing about Ware that I just want to note. Like these 3 games obviously are the ones that have gotten all of the publicity and rightfully so. But even in the 10 games before that, he had been averaging 11 points, 6 rebounds, shooting 62% from the field and shooting 53% from 3 on 2 3-point attempts per game in 19 minutes a night. So like, it's not like these 3 games came out of nowhere. It's been a nice gradual growth for him over the course of the last like really all season, but I would say over the last like month and a half, really. But then these games happened and he exploded. You know what I mean? Like we got the flash games, we got the exciting games. Where I am excited to see where it lands with Ware is he going to be like a real 38% 3-point shooter?
Sure.
He doesn't really get guarded like one right now, but if he can continue to prove that, man, it's going to be like, he is a dangerous offensive center because the way they use him now is really interesting where like they have him space above the 3-point line or trail. And then he's so lethal as a cutter because he's so fast for a big. Mm-hmm. Like if you put him in the corner and his man helps off of him on a drive, it takes him 2 steps to baseline cut and dunk. Like not just like dribbles. It takes him 2 steps to get all the way from the corner to the rim. So it's just really, really dangerous and really hard to guard him. if you're able to shoot, and teams have to pay attention to him, because if you do, that's going to create a lot of different opportunities. I will say, I do not trust any of the ball skill right now. I do not trust any of the passing right now. If he has to make like decisions beyond just like dribble handoff real quick, if he has to make decisions beyond like, oh shit, I got closed out on, like, I don't even trust him like sidestep dribbling in the way that he has to sometimes right now because they're playing him so much on the perimeter in half court sets. But man, the play finishing skill alone makes him a real NBA player. The nuance defensively will be the stuff that will make him like a real starter.
Yeah.
And then like the shooting and potential to like cut is what could make him like a high level starter. And if any of the ball skills come, that's where like the star outcomes are. I don't know that I'm there on that necessarily, just because the on-ball flashes have not been great yet. But in terms of just like catching and finishing and jumping and running, there's a lot to be excited about with Kel'el Ware. I would be very excited if I was a Miami fan about him.
Yeah, and that's compared to a big guy we'll talk about later. That's, to me, it'd be an interesting conversation. Like, would you rather have a big who you felt did those things and you weren't sure about the jumper, or a big that you were sure felt better about the jumper but not doing the big guy things, right? Like, which would you
who are you referring to?
We're going to talk about Alex Sarr, right? Like, Alex Sarr has really struggled in some of, we worry about his hands, right? Like, straight up, we worry about his hands, and that limits the lob threat, rim gravity, stuff like that. I've always thought Alex was going to shoot it, and I think he's at least gone through stretches where he's shown that this year. Which would you rather have as the foundation as a big guy, everything else being equal? The guy that you think is going to space the floor, or the guy that you know is going to be a lob threat rim finisher?
I would rather take so like there are just a few more skills that Sarr brings to the table. In terms of the archetype that you're saying, I would rather have the guy that does like the big man things. Like I would almost like from an archetypal perspective, right?
Yeah,
and
I guess that's
all of these
eliminate names, just archetypal perspective.
All of these guys have like pluses and minuses across the board. So eliminate names. I would rather have the guy that just does big man things.
Okay.
Like, personally. Like a Clingan or an Edie style player in theory. But with Sarr particularly, what I am really intrigued by is the ball skill.
Yeah.
Like, there are real outcomes from like being able to dribble and being able to like have flexible movements. And like, he had a play, was it their recent, I don't think it was the Phoenix game. I think it was the one before that, where like, who the hell was it? It was the Clippers. Yeah. Where, because it was Kawhi. Kawhi like rotates over after he catches a ball in the short roll area after I think like a 45 cut or something. And he just like catches and just like Euro steps around Kawhi as like a 7-foot big man. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, he does things, and we'll just move on to Sarr now because you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, he was going to be one of mine.
So Sarr does things just coordination wise that blow my mind. The flashes, not the whole picture right now. Is the whole picture, I would have Alex Sarr like 5th or 6th in terms of like rookie rankings with this season alone, right? Not anything in the future. But the flashes that he has physically in terms of coordination, in terms of flexibility, those are the things that like are really, really, really hard to find in an NBA player and in somebody that's 7 foot tall. They allow him to bend to like be able to play with the ball from time to time. They allow him to be able to like sit down and guard on the perimeter from time to time. There are a lot of flaws, and we'll talk about the flaws, but I do think that when I watch Sarr, he's probably the player that has the most like, oh, this could really explode down the road if he gets stronger and if he becomes a higher level shooter. Flashes.
It's the flashes. It's like the word of it's the word that describes him best. And it's what, listen, he was my guy going into that draft from very early on when I started working on it. And I understand people who don't want to buy into it. Like, I get it. I will put out 25 game sample now, most recent 25 games, 37% from three on almost 5 attempts. But just like you said, game against the Rockets, he blocks a shot on Dylan Brooks and then grabs and goes, Euro steps into a floater. And I'm like, how many big guys are doing this? The problem is he missed the shot. Flash, right? It's a flash play. There was another one, the passing, it's not always pretty. I think he sees the reads, but he doesn't always execute. So like, that's what's hard with Sarr on the offensive end is I'm like, okay, this process is good. This is interesting. This is cool. Oh, the pass is off target. Oh, look at that. Oh, he missed the shot or, whatever. And so it's like, and I kind of love this archetype of big. I think that's why I stay with it and am patient with it, because I feel like if it hits, that's extremely valuable in the NBA. But I understand people who are like, you're really going to buy into these flashes that aren't always turning into practical production. And I understand now that side of the argument as well. But every time I watch him, Sam, I don't feel bad about where I had him in this draft class. Like, I don't feel bad about how I had him. I ended up with him at number 1. There's nothing I've seen yet that has made me feel stupid about that yet in terms of what he may potentially be. Not this year. He hasn't been the number 1 player this year, of course.
Yeah, he has like five assist games in his last 15 games. Like, for a big, that's pretty crazy. Bigs don't really do that often, right? Like, he's not fucking Nikola Jokic, but like, he's really impressive as a passer. Like, he shows the right process. Like, I'm so glad you brought it up. Like, you can see him catch in the middle of the court, looks opposite corner, looks dunker, looks strong side, right? Like, and then reverses out. Like, you can see literally that the process is there. Eric Weiss, shout out Eric Weiss, super smart guy, brings up like Sarr's able to mirror drives and recover back into plays defensively, even when he gets spun around. That's 100% right. Like, the flexible like shit that he does and like his coordination is serious. Like, there's just a lot there. And by the way, like, over his last 25 games in total, 13 points, 7 rebounds, 2.2 assists, shooting 42% from the field, 37% from 3, 61% from the line, 0.7 steals, 1.4 blocks. The glue stuff that like you need from a big is not there.
Agreed.
Like, at all.
That's what makes it scary, right?
It's way scary. Like, people will bring up like Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, the proposition is way scarier to me than Jaren. And Jaren's defensive ability and just like consistency on defense always gave him way more outs. Like, it gave him a way higher floor than whatever Sarr's floor is.
What was Jaren offensive? Like, I wasn't scouting back then.
As a rookie, Jaren averaged 14 and 5, shooting 50, 36, 77.
That's
but was
different.
Also like quite good on defense.
Yeah.
And the big thing is that like Jaren took good shots as well. Right.
Yeah.
Like that was also a huge thing. And by the way, like, let's not sugarcoat this either. Like, Jaren came up, he had Marc Gasol next to him, he had Mike Conley next to him, like he had Kyle Anderson there for part of the year, like DeLon Wright was there part of the year, Garrett Temple was there part of the year, Jonas Valanciunas was there, like a 26-year-old Jonas. Like, he had a lot of good vets around him.
He got 26-year-old Jonas. Sarr is getting 30-plus-year-old Jonas, a different Jonas.
Yeah. Like, Alex Sarr has Jonas, which is cool, but like does not have what I would say are like amazing vets.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what my kind of like, it's going to require a lot of real, and like, I don't mean that personally. Like, everyone that like is around Washington says like Jordan Poole's been really, really good with this young group. So like, I don't mean that like off the court or anything, but the way Jordan Poole plays is not conducive to winning basketball a lot of the time. Right. Especially in that circumstance where you're really just letting him kind of fire. The two main issues that I see for Sarr are the main big issues, right? They are hands and touch around the rim. Point blank. Hands and touch around the rim are things that like cratered James Wiseman's career, right? Sarr is way, way, way ahead of where Wiseman is, like way, way ahead of where Wiseman was. But they are foundational skills that really allow you to be efficient and effective as a big man and not have like an efficiency deficit compared to other bigs around the league.
Yeah, as I watch this stuff closer and closer every year, I've found that like, okay, yeah, it's cool. The guys that can catch lobs and all of that. There's a real difference between guys who can finish the non-dunk stuff around the rim and the guys who can't. And like right now, Sarr, not like a crazy lob threat to begin with, but also not sure he's like this crazy touch guy. Like if he was hitting short roll floaters like I would feel better about it because that's a big man skill. Like, okay, he's not going to be a lob threat, but he's going to finish short rolls, and I believe he'll pass. I don't know if I believe in the touch enough yet to think he hasn't shown it yet, in my opinion. I'll have to look up the synergy numbers after I shut up here. The other thing is the defensive rebounding is another thing, or just the rebound, right? Like if you're going to be an anchor of the defense type guy, the strength, obviously, but then also the rebounding is an issue in terms of like, are you always going to have to pair him with a Jonas Valanciunas type player, right? And maybe that's where the Jaren Jackson Jr. stuff comes in. So that's where I say he's kind of scary is if he doesn't shoot it, if the ball skills don't translate, if the short roll, floater, Euro step finishing stuff doesn't come around, well, then what is it offensively? Like, what is he hanging his hat on if he isn't able to do that stuff? Because then if he can't shoot or whatever, and then he's not a lob threat. So that's the scary outcome for me.
Yeah. And you know, this is where it gets really, really tricky, and you have to really trust your like strength and training staff here with somebody like Alex Sarr, because how does added weight? Because I think that continuing for him to get stronger and more physical would really help him. But does any of the added weight take away from him being able to slide his feet on the perimeter and being as light on his feet and being as coordinated, right? Like, this is a gradual process. You and I went into this like very open-eyed when I had Sarr at number 1. I think I had Sarr at 1 or 2. I can't remember. I think I had him at 1. Like, we went into this very open-eyed saying it's going to take some real time.
Yeah.
Right. And this is not going to be like a 1-year process for him. It's going to be like 3 years really for him to like continue to get stronger. And then we're going to see where it is. But the ability to shoot, the ability to slide your feet defensively, the ability to like coordinatedly, you know, catch and dribble and Euro and use your footwork and have all of these really fun, exciting flash plays. That's what I'm most excited by, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So just real quick, the numbers on synergy. Let me go regular season because it has all here. Layups, he's at 52%. Floaters, he's at 35%. You know, like it's just non-rim paint shots, 37%. Like none of those numbers are like, oh man, like really excite you in regards to that. So like, that's where I would like to see some growth as well. But I think defensively, he's flashed a lot of the things I thought he could be, which is exciting. Like just in terms of the rim protection and the ground coverage. And we had the comment earlier about, you know, being able to turn and move and the hip fluidity, but you also bring up a good point. I say, I want him to get stronger. Well, you start putting muscle on and all of that. And then you got to make sure you keep that fluidity and the things that make him impactful right now. And he doesn't lose that along the way.
Yeah. And just to put those numbers in context on shooting. So when I did rookie rankings, I kind of looked at those. 41.2% when I did rookie rankings on those layups. That was the 4th worst mark in the league for any center. It was like Andre Drummond was down there. I think Missi might have been around that range as well, for what it's worth. Like there were a few different guys that really were kind of low in that ballpark. I don't know. Like there's a lot to be excited about with Alex Sarr, and there are a lot of flaws when I watch him. I'm just like, oh, this feels like it could be concerning. The other guy that, you know, I wanted to talk about on Washington, we'll move to my second player now, is Bub Carrington.
Yeah.
And Bub has been really exciting too. but there is, again, just like a real efficiency gap here that like gives you some pause, right? So over the course of the season, he's averaging 9 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, but he's shooting 40% from the field and 34% from three. The true shooting percentage is at like 51.1, which is not great, not terrible, but not great. At the end of the year, I am, when I watch him, I feel like the process is good, but it just is very difficult for him to get to the basket. And he doesn't really have anything easy right now because he's not a consistent 3-point shooter either. He can like hit them. And I think that like my biggest takeaway when I watch Bub is like, he's going to be fine. Like, I think Bub's going to be pretty good at some point. And I feel good about like having him in the top 10 of the draft long term, but like needs to get stronger, needs to continue to iron out the 3-point shot. But more than anything, like really just needs to like find a way to create shots at the rim. And he just does not have that ability right now. And by the way, this was absolutely like a real concern at Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a real concern for me in terms of like why I didn't have him even higher on my board last year. So basically Bub's concerns in college last year have transferred this year to Washington.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just reading through my, pre-draft scout, the dribble jumper is something I truly believe in. And then the improvement was being able to get all the way to the rim. And, I think the 2-point jumper has been good. Like, again, you just look at the numbers on Synergy, non-paint twos look good. The 2-point dribble jumper looks good. I think even the 3-point dribble jumper, but how does he manufacture getting to the rim? Like, what is the disconnect there for him? Like, why do we think he doesn't pressure the rim? Like, is there a lack of like first step explosion?
Yes.
Lack of physicality playing through contact because he's
Yes.
slight frame? Like, those are the issues, right? And those are a little scary on how the improvement comes with those, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Like, my worry was always like, there's a chance he's just a bench guard, right? Like, there's a chance that he's just like a really, really good offensive guard off the bench. I think that he has potential for more than that because of the shot making and the passing ability, particularly. But like, you have to be able to do something at the rim. And I think that's where like the footwork is going to have to improve. Like, he's going to have to become like really lethal off the bounce and being able to keep his footwork alive, being able to keep the ball alive. That's going to be really, really critical for him. But like, man, like if you look at their on-off numbers with Bub on the court, it's quite rough. Like when Bub is on the court, they're a -19 per 100 possessions. When he's off the court, they're like a -5.7 or so, which is not great, obviously. When Jordan Poole and Bub are on the court, they're a -20.65. When Bub is on the court without Jordan Poole, it's a -17.4. When Poole is on the court without Bub, it's only -7.7. So like you can see that his inability to defend, his inability to get his team like easy shots, it is dragging them down. But also, again, like you see the flashes where like he's very confident, he's very comfortable. Yes. Like there are real things he does where I am generally like pretty impressed. Like he had 12, 6, and 5 against the Clippers. And like, I thought that outside of, missing his threes was pretty good in that game. He had 17, 2, and 3 against the Warriors. And I thought he was like quite efficient in that game. So there are real games where he plays well. And like somebody just brought up like, 1 free throw attempt per game is the reason why Killian Hayes isn't in the NBA. I mean, look, like he's just Bub is a drastically better shooter than Killian Hayes and like a drastically better ball handler. Like he says, better ball skill at the end of the day. But the 1 free throw attempt per game is a significant problem for Bub too. Like that is absolutely like a huge issue that he has to figure out. And it's indicative of what we're talking about in terms of his inability to get to the basket. He has to make things easier for himself.
Yeah, so just a real quick look here. Killian Hayes, his rookie year, shot 28% from three on 2.8 attempts, and Bub is shooting 34% from three on just under 5 attempts. And I would venture to say Bub's 2-point dribble jumper is better as a rookie than what Killian's was. That's not even fair. Like, Killian only played 26 games. So even the next year, Killian was at 26% from three on 2.5 attempts. So just definitely a better shot maker.
To your point, Bub on his pull-up mid-range jumpers, 54%, which is what we saw last year, right?
Yeah.
Like he is a stud at getting to those mid-range shots and being able to knock them down.
Which to the point of YouTube user, they're like, if this is all he is, it's still not great. It's not a great outcome, but I think those shooting metrics give you a chance he at least sticks in the league. Killian was probably better point of attack defender than what Bub is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And the one thing I will say here, though, is, listen, I don't know this. I think Killian had confidence things. I don't think his mentality and confidence was like, I don't worry about that with Bub in a very positive way. Like Bub looks very poised whenever he plays. He runs the show. When you watch him play, he'll direct traffic. He's very confident, comfortable, and he plays and competes at a very, very intense level, in my opinion. And I thought he did at Pittsburgh as well. So you take all of those intangibles along with an ability to make shots off the dribble, and that gives you a chance to stick, which is what we talked about. But it's these other things that have to come around for him to really be a lottery pick level guard.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, I think as he gets stronger, remember, like he is a late physical bloomer, 6'5", really only for like 2 years now, 2.5 years now, probably 2 years or so. Also, like came to the NBA, was 18 years old when he was drafted. There is a lot of reason to be patient with him and his physical development. And I am generally really excited about Bub Carrington moving forward. But for right now, like it is a bit of a problem, and he's not playing super, super well. But there are games where you see it and you just go, yeah, like the flashes are here, and we're seeing the important things that we need to see. Again, though, he's playing on a Washington team that is either super young with, him, Bilal, Sarr, when Keyshawn George plays, like all these dudes, or it's, Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, like guys like that, don't play a brand of basketball that are particularly conducive to winning in this situation. So all of those things are real factors when I watch Bub, I feel like.
Yep.
Before we move on to Bryce's next player, shout out to the good folks over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to give real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. We love PrizePicks here at Game Theory because of how easy they make it to get real money sports action. The Super Bowl is coming up, and you're going to be able to make all sorts of picks on that game in 2 weeks. We don't have the exact teams who are going to be playing, but you can make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn those sports opinions into real money all season long once we get the teams who will be playing. Download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay, Bryce, you're up with your second player.
Yeah, let's go back to the bigs, and then because the rest of mine, I know you have one more big, and then we can get to some perimeter guys as well. Let's go back to Missi, and okay. I'm kind of curious here to get your thoughts. We've talked about him a little bit in past episodes. We've talked a little bit about, I think he's an explosive athlete. We've seen some big time block shots, like rim protection, like highlight worthy energy plays, lob finishing, that stuff. I don't necessarily want to talk about that as much in terms of getting your feel for, okay, we talked about Sarr being able to short roll and touch and those things. Do we think Missi is going to be able to do those things? Do we think he's going to be able to catch, square somebody up, and attack off the bounce like consistently? I know all of these guys can flash that occasionally. And then defensively, you made a comment last episode that I wanted to spend some more time on now, where are the shortcomings for you on that end of the floor in terms of, I assume it's kind of foundational, fundamental type stuff with him, along with just like the sheer size has been an issue where he can get bullied as well.
Yeah, to me, it's like the defensive angles more than anything. Like, I don't think that he totally knows how to play in ball screens yet. That was like my main worry coming out of Baylor, was just like the use of angles, right? And that just continues to be a thing. And look, like part of this, we need to be clear too. The Pelicans haven't had any continuity really this year. So they've made his life harder by not being able to like create synergy with like, okay, DeJounte Murray is going to come around a screen this way. I have to be this far away at the touch point to be able to stop him and be able to like slow things down. Right. CJ McCollum might get clipped on a screen a little bit longer, which means I have to hang, at the mesh point of the screen, just like a little bit longer. And then the tagger has to be a little bit tighter on the backside, just a little bit longer. And then I'll recover back once CJ gets through. Like he hasn't had a chance to really build any of that kind of synergy yet because guys are just coming in and out of the lineup, Like it is really, really hard. And his life has been made harder than that. Also, though, I think there are times where like he'll overplay to the middle and allow a guard to just reject the screen and get downhill. And that's kind of on him and his angle just being totally off in the ball screen, right? Sometimes he just gets caught like in no man's land and will not be guarding the ball handler or will not be guarding the roll man and just gets caught for a lob, right? So the angles need to continue to improve. This is another player that came to basketball just like a little bit later than other guys. And I think that he has enough foundational skill to where I'm like, okay with it. And he has enough foundational strength to where I think you can really just make him a straight drop coverage big. They generally, when I watch the Pelicans, it feels like they just have him like in a very deep drop all the time. And they're trying to make his life easier, it feels like to me. And they're trying to simplify things for him. But I don't think the process has been particularly good yet either.
Yeah, and that's if he figures it out, I think he has all the physical tools. I like the way he moves and his ability to do those things. I think he can backpedal and then elevate and explode off the floor. It's just if you get caught way too up the floor, it doesn't matter against NBA bigs because they're so athletic and these guys are so good throwing lob passes. It's one thing I've loved about, honestly, once I joined this podcast and having to watch the NBA in depth the way you ask me to do so is the nuance of defending ball screens. I think a lot of people think it's like, no, you're here and you just no, like there's hand placement, there's feet placement, there's, you have to be able to backpedal. And this is just drop coverage, let alone if you're trying to play at the level or you're going to blitz every once in a while, icing and communicating and all of these things, but how much easier your life can be. I talk about this all the time with Jokic, how much easier your life can be if you have good hand placement and hand activity, if you position your body the right. He's not Victor. I mean, I talked about this earlier on a podcast. We were talking about Victor. Victor can get away with these bad habits because he's 7'5" and insane. Missi, for as athletic as he is, he has to be more fundamentally sound to effectively guard these ball screens because it's just not the same. So he has to know where to put his hand and when to put it there. He has to know when to start his back pedal. He has to know where, how long to stay and then get back, play the cat and mouse game, make the ball handler think about things and anticipate and disrupt in that way. I'm not surprised as a rookie he can't do it, right? Like I'm not surprised by that, but it is something he's going to have to continue to get better at.
Well, the other big thing worth noting here is just like he's not enormous.
Yes, yes, correct. He's
like
not.
He is.
Yes, he gets away with stuff more because of how big he is.
That's absolutely right. Like he is just not an enormous like he is an enormous human, but by NBA center standards, like he's not an enormous human. He is like 6'10" and a half and has like a 7'2" wingspan. And I think his like standing reach is like 9'1" or something, 9'1.5" or so. Like it's like a little bit below average, but obviously he is like way, way, way able to like sky above. And when he's jumping, it's like, oh my God, like you're high pointing the ball and like this is all super easy. But the places where that comes up are when he's on the ground and when he has to like backpedal, when he has to be in ball screens, when he has to be at the touch point, where he has to like use his arms and like be able to try and cut off angles, right? Like Donovan Clingan is another one. Like Clingan just has way more margin for error when he's ground bound than what Missi does.
Yep. Yeah, and it matters. And I don't want to turn it into this, but the guy I watch every single night that's not a rookie anymore, but this is his issue he runs into because he's not enormous. And so being in the right spot at the right time with the right hand placement really matters. So as physically gifted as Missi is, he's going to have to learn this stuff to be. What about offensively? What do you think what I've learned about this archetype, or what I think I've learned, and also like that Derek Lively injury, sneaky, really, really big for the Mavericks. Like they're really going through it right now. And that's a huge loss for them. Like, I think Lively is obviously this big time lob threat, but when I watch the Mavericks play, when both those guys are healthy, I'm like, man, teams are blitzing Luka and Gafford just doesn't pass the ball the same way Lively does in the short roll.
Yeah.
And so now I find myself evaluating these young bigs in terms of, okay, that's great that you're that. That's a great starter. Can you make these short roll reads? Can you put it on the deck for 2 dribbles and either finish or make that pass? Do we think Missi gets there? Because he showed some flashes at Baylor. I have some notes
late in the year. Yeah.
Yeah. I have some notes this year where it's like, okay, it looked really good this time, but then this time he dribbled it off his foot. It's hard to really say whether we do or don't, but are you encouraged, or do you think it's almost exclusively dunker spot, offensive rebound, lobs?
Look, it's the guy I've always compared him to is Clint Capella.
Yeah.
And Clint Capella got to the point in Houston where he could catch the ball short roll when James Harden got blitzed and could look opposite corner and would find PJ Tucker there all the time. Right. I think Missi has shown enough as a rookie to where he'll be able to do that. I don't know if he's ever going to like put the ball on the ground and like pass on the move, but I think he can at least like be a pressure release valve for when somebody puts 2 on the ball. Like, I think that's where I'm at on Missi as like an offensive lob threat. Like, I mean, yeah, that's going to be fine. As an offensive rebounder, that's going to be totally fine. Right. Like he is really, really good at going up and high pointing the ball. That's like his best skill to me. So I am very excited by all of that. To me, it's more the defense. Like it's all going to be contingent upon the defense getting to a level that is like consistently positive.
I'm with that. I think that's fair. And I think I agree with you for what it's worth on the passing. I don't think he ends up being this like off the dribble type player. I think I believe in his processing and passing enough that he can catch out of the short roll whenever they put 2 on the ball and then make the necessary read. Or if nobody steps up, he can take 2 dribbles and go dunk on somebody or whatever. I think that's where I'm at right now with the ceiling on that aspect of his game. But yeah, lob threat, like he's twitchy, explosive off the floor. It's crazy.
Yep, I agree. Okay. Next up, I will go. Let's finish out the bigs. Let's go Donovan Clingan next.
Perfect. Yes.
So let's just like knock all of these guys out because we ended up with a lot of them. We ended up with 4 of them this week. So, or this time around. So Clingan, has played 32 games this year. He's just in like a funky spot where when Rob Williams and Ayton are healthy, like you just don't know totally what the minutes are going to look like. Right.
Yeah.
They might be really good. They might not be. Things that Donovan does like really, really, really well. Awesome rebounder, incredible in drop coverage. I also think he is really, really good as a screener and as a center that you can put out high and trust in like dribble handoff rejects. He's not going to like dribble and make creative decisions, but like he just knows how to keep the offense in flow. Like he'll reject a dribble handoff and then shoot like a kick out to the opposite side of the court and get an easy 3-pointer that way. Like the way that he moves the ball and the way that he's able to keep things kind of in flow on the offensive end, it's just very different than, for instance, when DeAndre Ayton's out there. Right. So the Blazers this year, when Clingan is on the court, they're a minus 3.5 team per 100 possessions. When he is off the court, they're a minus 9.2. And that's with him playing like most of his minutes with backups. Like, the fact that they have a winning record, or like more, closer to winning, where they're not getting like absolutely obliterated with Clingan on the court, given that like a lot of his most common lineups aren't necessarily the lineups that you would expect to be successful all the time. Like, it's Kamara, Grant, Henderson, Sharp. And like, Kamara has been great, but you know, Scoot tanks their numbers like whenever he's on the court. Sharp's numbers, I don't believe, are particularly positive. I'll look that up while we're talking, but like, you know, Shaden Sharp, his on-offs this year are, they're worse with Shaden on the court than they are with him off, or they're worse with Shaden on the court than when he's off the court. You know, Chris Murray's in a bunch of these lineups, like Jabari Walker's in a bunch of these lineups. The Jabari and Clingan lineups actually have been pretty okay. Now looking at them hilariously, but I just, every time I watch Clingan, every time he's on the court, I feel like he is like probably their best big man at the end of the day. I think he is already their best big man, I think is what I would say. He's the one that impacts winning the most. And that's before we even get to like the really high end defensive stuff that he does in drop coverage and everything else. And he rebounds the ball. Like, he is really, really good.
Yeah, he's going to rebound. He's going to be a nightmare on the offensive boards for teams. I'm glad you brought up like the DHO stuff. I feel like he has a good understanding of like dribbling in, picking it up. You know, he can reverse pivot, hit the back door. Like, I feel like he has an understanding of how to screen in those situations. Just, he has the size to be an effective screener and get teammates open. I wanted to ask you about the finishing. Like, I am a little bit nervous because I went back and read my notes, and there's a few of like, didn't finish this one in college because didn't get off the floor fast enough. And then sometimes I question the touch. And then I've seen a little bit of that in the NBA. I thought he moved well for his side. Are you at all concerned about the finishing? Like, at all? Like, okay. Yeah. Because I'm like, the numbers kind of back it up as well. And then the fact that I had it in my notes from the pre-draft kind of reinforces it. And I'm like, dang, like, now I'm a little bit concerned if he isn't doing all those things at a high level.
So here's the difference between like him and like Sarr as a finisher.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Clingan has great hands. Like, Clingan,
I would agree with
catches
that.
everything. It feels like to me. Sarr does not always catch everything. So it's like slightly different to me insofar as like, I think that Clingan generally is able to create slightly easier shots than what Sarr can, basically. Also, he's just stronger. Like, he can like power his way to the rim in a real way. But Clingan, I think, is effective enough as a finisher, despite the fact that I agree with your touch questions and like I have some concerns.
Okay. And that's, I was curious if I was off base here because, again, it just continued to show up. I agree. I do think he catches the ball well. And again, it's not the same concerns we have about Sarr just in terms of catching. It was also just a little bit of like great size, but maybe he doesn't pop off the floor when he's having to move. And then everything in the NBA game happens faster. Like, you don't get just like, I'm standing here, jump straight up, catch and finish lobs like maybe you would in college. And maybe he's struggling a little bit to really elevate at the NBA level where those lobs have to be a little bit higher because the defenders are a little bit longer and more athletic and all of that. And maybe he'll figure it out. He's a rookie. It concerned me a little bit because he hasn't, I've never really thought he was going to be like a floor spacer, those type of things. I do think his passing is interesting, even going back to college, and you touched on that as well. So I do think he can do that. And then of course, the defense is impactful with his size and all of that.
So I don't know if you watched the Charlotte game, like he'd missed like 4 or 5 games or whatever in a row and came back against Charlotte. What was that? Last night, 2 nights ago? I think 2 nights ago, maybe.
Okay.
And started that game. It was a game, I think, where I don't remember DeAndre playing in that game at least. And I think Rob didn't play either, but like he got a real chance basically to play. And that was exciting. And I thought he did really well against Mark Williams. Like Mark Williams has been really, really effective just as a play finisher. I will say that I thought about doing a video on like the 38-point Mark Williams game, and then I went and watched it, and I was like, he was really bad in the first half of that game against Memphis. They got down like 30, like in part because he was not very good. And then they figured out kind of how to make him effective in the second half. I didn't think it would make for a great video. But like, I thought that, Clingan did a great job. Like he ended that game. He only had 4 points, but he had 13 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 4 blocks. He was a plus 10 in the minutes where he was on the court in a game that they won by 5. Like, again, when I watch him, I'm just like, this is the dude who is very clearly their best center. Maybe they're trying to like not play him as much to tank him, like, or to tank it a little bit. Like even in that stretch, like from like December, where I felt like he played well after, and he missed a few games here and there too. And, early December, late November, if I remember correctly, like it felt like they were playing him like 10 minutes a night, 12 minutes a night, 14 minutes a night. Right. And I was just like, man, what are we doing? Like, why are we playing games with this kid? Like he's awesome. He's really good. I will say, like, again, when I watch him, I think that there's real room in terms of conditioning with him.
Sure.
It was a thing when he got to Connecticut and he got into amazing shape at Connecticut. I think he's not quite in the amazing shape. I think he's more in the shape that we saw at the beginning of his sophomore year, as opposed to like where he was totally dominant at the end of his sophomore year. I think he will continue to get into shape. Like I think that's probably just like a kid that has literally never left Connecticut, like grew up right next to the Connecticut campus, like went to UConn, living outside of the state for the first time, like in his life, adjusting and trying to figure everything out. I've been told like he's super happy in Portland and like loves it there. I'm not saying that it's like an unhappiness thing. I'm just saying it's an adjustment to, being away from that, which could be a little bit different for him, but he'll probably, like, I think he's going to get better. Like, I think he's just going to get way, way, way better and continue to grow and mature and be awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm with it. I had him very high on my board, so I hope so.
Yeah, no, he's going to be really, really good. Okay. You're up next with your third player.
Yeah, I want to go Ryan Dunn. We don't have to spend a lot of time on Dunn because I feel like we bring him up. He's one player we have discussed throughout the year, just as we talk about other things, because he is, he started 24 games for a team that gets discussed a lot in the Phoenix Suns. I got a chance, I watched him the other night against the Pistons, and I just came away so impressed because all he has to do is if he's good on the baseline, even he like that works offensively. And in that game, in the first, I think it was like few possessions, he knocked down a corner 3. A little bit later, he makes a backdoor cut at the right time and finishes. And then a few possessions later, he got an offensive rebound. He had 7 points in the first 4 minutes, I guess is my point here. And it was all just playing on the baseline, just like standing in the corner, letting KD and Booker and everybody else do their thing. And then when the ball came to him, he knocked down the 3. When his man turned his head, he cut to the basket. And when a shot went up, he sprinted to the boards and then guarded his butt off against Cade Cunningham. And I'm like, that's a really valuable role. And listen, the shot has to be proven, right? It's even on corner 3s right now, it's at 34%. It still has to be better. It's just he does the other things you need from a baseline player. He cuts, he offensive rebounds, all of those things. I watched another game where he attacked a closeout, dropped one off, and then dunked another one. It's really, really close, and it's really intriguing to be like a real 3-and-D archetype if he figures out the corner 3 consistently, because I think he has the other baseline corner stuff figured out on the offensive end, along with what he does defensively.
Well, and he ended up hurting his ankle against Washington.
Yeah.
In the games like leading into that, if you remove the previous 2 games against Cleveland and Brooklyn, in the 11 games prior to that, he'd been averaging 12 points, 6 rebounds, nearly a block per game, shooting 52, 36, and 57. So the shooting is just not there yet. Like I don't believe in it at all at this point, but the defensive activity, the ability to just kind of like be a havoc player on offense a little bit, and also be like a real defensive player who is active, aggressive, can take on tough assignments, really good off the ball. Like he is kind of what we all thought he is, what we all hoped he would be. I think it's just that the shooting is going to have to come, and it's going to have to come the same way that it did for Herb Jones and a few other guys. But, you know, the progress is exciting. You know, he can even
don't you think he's further along offensively than what we would have guessed? I mean,
for sure.
The 3-point percentage is better. He's 75% at the rim. He's 54% in non-rim paint shots. Like, I realize he's not taking a lot, and he's probably only shooting in the lane when he's essentially wide open off these cuts, these offensive rebounds. Like, I get all the context. It's just like it hasn't been the negative offensively I thought it was. And listen, when we get to the playoffs, it's going to be somewhat of an issue, right, for that team. I also want, like, those guys shoot so many mid-range jumpers anyway. Maybe it's not as glaring for that team as maybe it would be for another team, but it's still going to be glaring because teams are just going to play way off and leave him wide open in the corner. It's further than what I thought, and he's been everything I thought he was going to be on the defensive end. So,
yeah, no, I agree. He has been really good for them up until this little ankle injury that hopefully, you know, isn't serious or anything, but he has been effective and sharp, and like the havoc is kind of what I keep coming back to with him.
Yeah.
Like there is just like a real sense that, you know, he's going to get a couple of offensive rebounds per game.
Yes.
He's going to like go and like try and be aggressive in passing lanes, and he's going to be really solid on defense too, though. He's going to like be really active and like make sure that guys don't get away from him. Right. I've been really, really impressed with Dunn.
Yeah, no, he's been good. And again, he's starting on that team, like you've mentioned a couple times now, till this ankle injury. But he's further along offensively, and so I wanted to talk about him real quick. Like I say, we've discussed him previously also.
All right, another guy we've previously discussed because we just did him last year in the rookies is Jaylen Wells, and Jaylen Wells is just really good. Like he's just an awesome role player for a team to have right now. That's kind of what it comes down to for me. He's averaging 12 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 44, 39, 84 in terms of his shooting splits. You know, his true shooting percentage right now is 1% above league average. He's also taking on like real defensive assignments for the Memphis Grizzlies. He's constantly he just has like a calmness. Like there's no worry. He never looks flustered. He never looks overmatched. He never looks concerned, right? And you see that on defense too. Like they give him really tough defensive assignments, and like he's never like shit. Like I have to be over aggressive here. Like I'm gonna get like, you know, if I'm not over aggressive, like I'm gonna get beat this way. Like he just feels like he's really solid and steady on that end of the court. And then you watch him get through screens. He's really good at getting through screens. He's super skinny. He knows how to like use his body to get over that. Like he's just a really sharp player. To me, like I said, like very clearly the rookie of the year so far to me. I don't really even think as of right now, I am willing to say that this could change. Like I don't really know that there's a case for anybody else to be rookie of the year than Jaylen Wells.
I don't think so either, unless McCain comes back, picks up where he left off and helps them.
He's not doing that. Like we know that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, wait, is he officially done for the year?
Done for the year. We know that. Yeah.
Oh, I guess for some reason I was thinking there was a chance he could get back.
No, they announced it a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there's just not anybody else when you consider what he's doing on a team that is that good. He started 40 games this year for them. And it's just like you mentioned the matchups. So we've talked about the defense a lot. Offensively, the confidence. Like I brought it up where he shot the one-legged 3-pointer over Victor the other game. And it was just like he does not care. He does not get shook. And you know what? I was looking again. I went back for these guys and I just wanted to read my pre-draft notes just to kind of get, and I talked about, I highlighted his off-ball relocation and movement skills, how he relocates off teammates' drives and shoots off movement. You know what Memphis is really, really good and really prioritizes? off-ball relocation whenever teammates drives. And so
right.
he fits exactly and perfectly into what they need in terms of that. And so, listen, I'm not saying he's only good because he's in Memphis. That's not my point here. It's just he really fits what they need, and he's filled that role, I mean, better than I could have imagined. Like, whenever we look back on this draft and somebody asks me about my misses, this will be the first name I'm going to bring up, because he wasn't in my top 30, and he's the rookie of the year right now.
Oh, he'd be a lottery pick if they redrafted right now.
No, I meant, yeah. So
no, 100%. I think I had him at like 48 or so. Like I didn't really buy the defense was my thing.
So
like,
I looked at that. I put, he's giving energy and effort on the boards, willing to get in a stance, maybe a neutral defender because of his length. Yeah. I need to go watch the college film to see if there was something there that should have pointed me in this direction of what he's been defensively.
Well, and again, like here's the thing with him. Like we talked about this in the Rookie of the Year show, or the award show, but he is a player that had like a crazy growth process, right? Like he went from being undersized, like good high school player, to 6'6" during COVID, basically. Had an awesome year, like in the 2021 year, where people couldn't really get out and see him. Like he blew up and became like the city of Sacramento, like player of the year, and then went to Sonoma State, like still didn't have any D1 offers. Was awesome at Sonoma State for 2 years, then went to Washington State and like wasn't great for the first half of the year, and then continued to grow and like mature and like get better and better throughout the year. And even still like wasn't great on defense there. So it's just a fascinating growth trajectory, in my opinion. And like Wells is the guy that deserves an immense amount of credit. Like everyone that I've talked to about him is just like, this kid works ridiculously hard. He is just like an absolute grinder. Like he cares about it so much. He's just like a normal human being. Like he is the coolest story of the rookie class to me so far, like by far.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And it'll be interesting because that team's going to the playoffs and they sometimes start 2 rookies, and it'll be fascinating to see, how those guys hold up in the playoffs, because we know things can change sometimes, but I mean, the confidence doesn't waver. And so I have no reason to believe he won't be able to.
I'll just say this too. Speaking of confidence, like Zach Edey, like has like the most confidence. There's just like he is totally fearless. Like like we've said this before on the show. Like I have no idea why people keep trying him, like physically. This dude is 7'4". He's 300 pounds. He knows that he's 7'4". He grew up playing fucking hockey, guys. Like he does not care. If you try to be physical with him, he will be physical back with you. Like he told me on this show that like he literally enjoyed like trying to check people and like obliterate them when he played hockey. Like this is just who he is, right? So I've so enjoyed the Edey experience. I still think Wells over Edey for Rookie of the Year at the end of the day. I think he's just been the more consistent player for the Grizzlies. Obviously, he's played 46 games, and I think Edey's up to like 30 or so now. If you had asked me like on a per minute basis, which one of them is more effective, I think I probably would say Edey is more effective on a per minute basis. Like his rim protection is awesome, and his overall ability to just like score quickly and create efficient shots. Like Edey, so far this season is shooting 58% from the field and 40% from 3. Like his true shooting percentage is 10% above league average right now. I think he's probably been like a more effective player in total, but man, like if you look at the entirety of the season, Wells having played so many more minutes than Edey, like I think that it's pretty close to double now at this point, 1,200 versus 667 for Edey. I think you have to go with Wells so far as Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty substantial minutes difference for those guys where, yeah, even if you want to make the argument Edey's are more impactful, just the fact of double the minutes, you have to, I feel like Wells has been more impactful in totality than Edey has when you factor that stuff in.
Completely agree. Okay, you're up with number 4.
Yeah, I wanted to talk Ron Holland, not because he's been anything spectacular, not because I think he should be on an all-rookie team, but because we haven't talked a lot about him. I want to get your thoughts on him. Obviously, I've watched.
I want your thoughts first because you watch all of his games.
Yeah. I'll give it, but I'm just interested to get an outsider's perspective on Holland. And of course, I've watched. He's been better than what I thought, to be honest, like in terms of just being able to be part of the rotation for a team that has a winning record right now. He comes in, he plays extremely hard, which is the scouting report going all the way back to high school. So not a surprise. He's finished around the rim really well. If you look at the numbers, it backs it up. I will say a lot of that is because a lot comes in transition where he's very good. I don't know what the half court finishing numbers dip to, but he has flashed some really good aspects of that. Defensively, he gets lost off the ball. He misses defensive rebounding rotations and rotations in general, that stuff. But he's had some really good point of attack possessions that have been very intriguing. The passing, the feel, like we knew it was going to be a question, but it hasn't been like, oh my gosh, this is unbearable to watch. But I think the biggest thing is like, this dude's confidence does not waver. Like teams will not guard him. He will take the catch and shoot jumper, and then he'll take it the next possession. Sometimes he'll take it the possession after that. And you're like, hey, Ron, maybe not this time. But the shooting percentage, I kind of trending up a little bit over the last 15, I believe. And so I'm intrigued. Like I wasn't sure he was going to be ready to play at all. And he's come in and played, what is it? Probably right around 15 and a half minutes a night. And I think he does his job and he plays extremely hard and with confidence. So again, more than anything, I was curious to see if you've seen similar things, if there's something that's been really negative or something really positive that you've seen.
I think where I would start is that he just keeps getting better. The more I watch him, the more I'm like, okay, like you're getting better from the start of the year to where you are now, right?
Yeah.
In terms of positioning, in terms of timing his cuts, in terms of honestly, like the shot is falling a little bit more often. Like if you look at it, his last 14, like you said, he's shooting 36% from 3 over that little run, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, basically even assist to turnover, 45% from the field. Like generally, I think that like he has found a way to moderate almost the crazy high wire energy that we really like more consistently while still bringing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Like I think that that's kind of what stands out most to me with Holland. Like, it's almost like the game is slowing down, maybe is like the fairest way to put it. And this is why getting reps early in your NBA career, being able to stay on the court is important, because if you can stay on the court, it matters.
Yeah.
Like it truly, truly matters. You need to be able to stay on the court just so you can understand the speed of the game, just so you can kind of get what's happening around you and how you have to adjust, and then be able to adjust back to what offenses are presenting you, be able to adjust back to what defenses are presenting you. Look, it's not like he's been some incredible rookie. I have him in the top 15 of the rookie class so far, for sure. Like, I don't even think it's very clearly, I think I had him at like 13 or 14 in the rookie rankings, something like that. I mean, I can look it up.
I have mine right here. Yeah. I had him. Yeah. Top 13-ish is where
I have him behind Connect right now. I'd probably have him ahead of Connect now.
Yeah, honestly. That's what I had those guys right in the same realm after the top 10. Yeah. I mean,
good player. Like, and here's the thing too, like Ron is still a teenager. Like, and he's going to be a teenager the entire season. He's very, very young. He is just like, was very emotional. I felt like on the court, like you don't really see that a whole lot this year. I am generally happy with what I've seen from Ron Holland. I would
agree. And that's a good point where he brings this energy, but listen, there's probably one shot a game where it's like, man, Ron, that's a little too much. And sometimes he makes it, right? Like he made a step back 3 from the corner in front of the bench the other night. And it's like, okay, well, that's the one shot that you're probably like, I'm not sure. Sometimes it's something to the rim, but I love the confidence. I love the intensity. He continues to bring it. And yeah, like this is what, whenever you're playing competitive, competent basketball, you get a chance to put him in these situations. Like he's playing in close games and it's real value. The one thing I will say is it's not a great situation in terms of how many non-floor spacers still are on this team, right? Like you have a Sarr who's a worse shooter than him, and you have all non-floor spacing bigs because Stewart doesn't even take him anymore. And so it is interesting to see how JB has to work the rotations to get him on the court without just crushing the floor spacing for Cade, and I guess really just Cade now. But like that's kind of been an interesting part for him as well. They've definitely prioritized it, but you very rarely see him and Sarr on the court together because it's so damning to the floor spacing.
Yeah, like it's going to be really interesting to see how they manage that long term.
Yes, it is.
Because like Ron almost reminds me of like a Aaron Gordon-y prototype almost. Just a little bit skinnier than what Aaron was coming in, but like it's kind of similar to that to me for some reason. And Sarr is more like the Iguodala-y prototype, but like, can you play both of those guys together in the NBA? Like, especially in today's NBA, I'm not totally sure.
You definitely can't with Jalen Duren as your center, or quite honestly, even Isaiah Stewart, who has regressed in terms of being a floor spacer. Now he's been really good every other aspect of the game, but he doesn't do that anymore as he was starting to. You definitely can't with those guys at center.
Yeah. So like, can you find them enough consistent minutes to continue to grow on the court? It's a real question. But I've liked Ron. Yeah. I've liked Ron quite a bit, honestly.
And that's why I wanted to bring him up. Again, I wasn't like, I'm not going to sit here and trying to make a push for all rookie team or that he's been unbelievable or something like that. I think in general, he's been better than I thought he was going to be as a rookie. I think it's been positive. I think it's been growth. And I was interested to see if you had seen the same things.
Yeah, like it'll be really interesting to see, like, you know, now that Franz is back, for instance, right? You know, like Tristan da Silva still played a bunch of minutes in the Magic's game. Like he still played 26 minutes in their game against, I believe it was the Pistons. If I remember correctly, like thinking about it.
Yeah.
So like, but like, does that continue? I'm guessing it does, in all honesty. Like I would think it will, but if it doesn't, like he could kind of fall out of it a little bit. You know, I'm trying to think of like other guys. You know, AJ Mitchell is going to fall out of all rookie contention in all likelihood.
Sure.
You know, the last couple all rookie spots. So the 8 names for all rookie that I see right now as being like very likely to make the all rookie team are Jaylen Wells, Zach Edey, Steph Castle, Zaccarie Risacher, Alex Sarr, Yves Missi, and then I would guess that Ryan Dunn will make it too.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's actually 7. So for the last 3 spots, you're going to have maybe AJ Mitchell does come back and is able to like make it happen, but I'm questionable. Tristan da Silva. I would say da Silva is the safest of this group for sure, but I just want to see a little bit more and learn a little bit more in terms of just what his role is going to be, not in terms of like who he is as a player. Bub Carrington, Donovan Clingan, Dalton Connect, Ron Holland, and then probably like Kel'el Ware.
I was going to say, Ware's going to start making a case for it.
Real jump here.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, like Holland is definitely in this mix to me.
Yeah. That's what I thought as well. Like, that's where I'm at with him. Not in it, but he's at least in the conversation. So
he's definitely on the edge of it. Like there is no doubt that he's at least on the edge of being all rookie. And that says a lot. Okay. Next up, my final player that I really wanted to talk about was Zaccarie Risacher.
Yeah.
Look, this one again is not going to be super long, right? Like I've just been impressed with the process of Risacher, even if like the final results aren't always there, right? He has obviously missed like a little bit of time recently. He has like an adductor strain, and you know, is that like in your thigh or something? Like I can't remember exactly what it is, but like he's missed like a few games here and there.
Abductor
is inside.
Is inside. Adductor, I
Okay.
believe, is on the outside, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
Cool. So, but when I watch Risacher, like, look, 10 points per game, 4 rebounds, shooting 40, 28, 71. The big thing is just the shooting is not there right now, which we knew coming into the year. Like you and I talked about, he is a streaky shooter. Like he made 1 billion threes to start the year last year. He went ice cold in the middle of the year last year, and then made a bunch of them in like the playoff run for Borg. And so far, it's just been very inconsistent, but it's been more like game to game than it has been, gets really hot for a run as opposed to that. Like he'll go through like a 3-game stretch where he'll go 3 for 6, 2 for 4, 2 for 4. And then he'll go through like a 3-game stretch where he goes 1 for 3, 0 for 2, 0 for 4. Right. Then he'll go on another little run where he makes them, 6 for 10 from 3. And then he'll go on another run where he misses them. Right. So, it is a bit of a moving target in terms of the shot, but he's a sharp defender. He moves well without the ball. He keeps the offense like in flow and keeps things just like kind of moving around the perimeter, flying around. He reverses the ball super effectively. I just think that in general, you can see the process here for how this is going to be fine once the jump shot starts falling.
Yeah, I had him backwards. The abductors are on the outside of the hip. The adductors are on the inside. So,
oh, Bryce, we got to fire you now. I'm sorry.
I know. Listen, not a doctor.
Unbelievable.
I smiled when you said your first line about Zach because it's literally a line from my notes of the offensive process has been good when I watch him play, but eventually he has to start making shots. So it's like the same idea, right? Like the process is good. I think he's doing the right things. Eventually he has to start putting the ball in the basket, but he does enough to keep me intrigued with what I saw pre-draft. Does he end up making shots or not? I don't know. Like we'll see. I like the potential defensively just as like an all-around team defender. I don't think he's ever like a crazy point of attack, lock you up type of defender in that way. But I think he can be a part of an overall good defensive scheme. I think he can be your second or third wing defender. Like Dyson's always going to take the primary matchups. Like I would be comfortable with Zach in a few years being the guy that takes the next best perimeter guy, especially, with his length. And if he puts on a little bit of strength and muscle, he's just got to make shots. Like it is like, quite frankly, that's where I'm at with him. I still believe in a lot of the other stuff. This was a guy I had number 2 on my board coming into the year. And again, like whether he makes shots or not will be what proves that to be, right or wrong, I think.
Yeah. And look, I had Risacher like in that top group of prospects. I think I had him 5th among that group. Like I wouldn't have been wildly enthused about taking him at number 1, but the hands are good. The hand activity is good. Like you said, he's really good in those like 1-on-2 situations on the backside where he can just kind of use his length and get as big as possible. And then like use his coordination to close out and, have somebody else X out on the other side. Like he's really, really, really he just knows how to play. It's kind of the easiest thing. And when you're 6'9", 6'10", and you are, you don't have a ton of length, but you just cover ground in the way that he does, and you have skill. You are an NBA player to me. I think he's probably going to end up being a good, solid long-term starter. I don't really see a lot of upside beyond that based off of what we've seen this year, which is kind of why I didn't have him in like that top, 4 group.
Sure.
But I am at least enthused by what I've seen, enough of him being like a long-term starter for the Hawks.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think he is really interesting. We've talked about like, hey, maybe they figure, Trey at the point, and then you put Dyson, Zach, and Jalen Johnson around him. That's a really interesting trio of off-ball wings. There's plenty of secondary creation in that group, like where Risacher doesn't even have to do any of it, right? Between Dyson and Jalen, that's all the secondary creation you would need off of Trey. You put, whatever they're going to figure out at the center position, but I like what they have there. Like that makes sense to me, that trio of off-ball guys. And so I think he's in a good spot to fulfill the role we're talking about that we think he can be in.
Yep. Okay. Your last guy that you wanted to dive into.
Yeah, I want to talk about Jamal Shead. This was one of your guys, was not one of my guys. I would have had him probably lower than what I even ended up with him. Was it not for you and kind of your push of how good he was? I actually had him exactly where he got taken. I think you had him higher than me, maybe a little bit.
I had him, I think at 31 at the end of it.
I had him
maybe 29 or so even.
Yeah.
But
I had him at 45, which was lower, too low. That's where he ended up going. But this dude just pressures the lane and pressures the lane and pressures the lane over and over and over. He can pass, but then he can hit the floater. He's 55% on floaters via synergy. I know sometimes their numbers can be a little bit funky. The 3-point percentage has been just good enough. And then he just gets after you at the point of attack, just gets after you. He'll pick you up full court. He's a pest defensively. I really enjoy watching him play. I've been really impressed anytime I watch a Raptors game.
I love Jamal. I love him unconditionally. I don't really have the thing that impresses me most about him, the more I watch him, he never gets fucking tired, Bryce. like you said, like he's constantly pressuring the basket. He's constantly like trying to get paint touches. And then he comes back on the other end. He is pressuring the shit out of you at the point of attack. He is constantly engaged mentally in what's happening around him defensively. He's constantly talking. Like all of that I would need a nap.
So imagine being the guy on the other side of that,
Watching him makes me want to take a nap. Like he is so fun. He's so energetic. I think he's an NBA player. If you look at his last 17 games, the big thing was like the scoring efficiency early on. Like it was fucking catastrophic, right? But the last 17 games, 6.4 points per game, 4.2 assists, 1.6 turnovers, 46% from the field, 41% from three, 70% from the line. Like if he can do that and be a great defender, he is 100% a backup point guard in the NBA. Like it's not even a question. Like that level of production, like he has been really, really effective recently.
Yeah. And like going back to college, he liked the floater in college. So this is a shot he knew he was going to have to be able to make. He's comfortable with it and he's hit it at a high rate in the NBA. That gives him a way to finish when he does pressure the lane and people stay home. He's never going to finish at the rim, right? Like that's not something that we think he's probably going to do at a super high level. He's also 40% on corner threes. So my thing is like, okay, you can put him out there with Scotty Barnes and let Scotty be the primary initiator and attack and do whatever they want to do. And Jamal can go play off the ball. And if he can do that and space the floor there, great. And then whenever they get a bucket, now he's picking you up full court and he's driving you crazy. And the other team's not actually starting. I think one of the underappreciated values of like picking up full court and the way these guys pressure, don't look at the possessions where they get the steal. Watch the possessions where the shot clock is at 7 and the ball hasn't got inside the 3-point line. Those are the ones that I love watching when a guy single-handedly takes away an offensive possession from the opponent because they never get the ball inside the 3-point line or that never gets passed or whatever. And that's the type of stuff Shead can do.
Yeah. No, like they're kind of a mess. Like, let's just be honest. Like Toronto's been like a total mess recently. Yeah, like not like super recently. They've actually won like a few games. Like I think they've won their last 3 or 4. Is it? I know they swept. I think they swept Atlanta, right? Like that was kind of what happened. But up until that point, like they'd lost. God knows. I seriously think that they had. I think it was like they'd lost 10 of 11 up until that point, and now they're like finally started to kind of flip it a little bit. But I've really enjoyed Jamal. Like I think he is so active. He's a great personality. It feels like he's just like an awesome character. Yeah, I think Jamal's a dude that is like he's a backup point guard. Like I don't really see it as being much more than that, but like he is like a backup point guard to me.
Yeah, I think that's what he's looked so far. And so I wanted again, he's a guy we haven't talked a ton about. We haven't talked a ton about the Raptors. GMAC to the Raptors have won 5 of 6. So a nice little stretch for the Raptors over their last 6. But and
then before that they had lost literally 10 of 11 is what it was. Yeah. But yeah, they've been nice, like having turned it around a little bit, which is good.
Yep.
Okay. We didn't talk a lot about Steph Castle here, and I would have Steph as the I would say currently third best rookie in the league. And Spurs fans will lose their minds if we don't talk about Steph Castle. So I do at least want to like quickly note what we've seen from him. Do you have any strong takes on Steph Castle here over his last little run where I think he's actually been quite good?
I haven't caught up on the Spurs recently with that. Like I've kind of just watched the box scores, so I don't have like the in-depth thoughts on him as much.
Yeah, so the big adjustment has been that they've shifted him back into the starting lineup. And when he has started this year, he's been really, really good. It's when he's been coming off the bench where it's been not nearly as effective. Like if you look at the last 5 games or 6 games, it looks like here against the Lakers, 23 points, 4 rebounds, went 10 of 16 from the field. Against Memphis, 26 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. Against Memphis again, 20 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Against Indiana in the second of their Paris games, 17, 6 and 6, right? Like that was a game where like he was not great. I didn't think, even in spite of the counting numbers, because he took a bunch of kind of shitty shots in the paint and around the basket and missed a bunch of them. But like he has generally been much more effective this year as a starter. I'm going to look up the splits kind of while we're talking. In terms of starter versus reserve, he's averaging 30 minutes per game as a starter, scoring 15 points and dishing out 4 assists per game. In 19 minutes per game as a bench player, he's averaging 7 points and 2.8 assists per game. But the real thing is the shooting percentages. As a starter, he has a 51.4 true shooting percentage. As a bench player, he has a 42.8 true shooting percentage this year. Finding a way to score the ball is just always going to be the key for him. Finding a way to efficiently score the ball is going to be the key for him. But he just does everything else. Like he's so effective cutting off the ball. He's so effective at being able to defend. I really like his defensive energy even more with the starters. I think that it looks better than what it does with the bench players. I think his aggression and his willingness to like really guard at the point of attack is helped by having somebody like Victor Wembanyama behind in case he does get beat. So I have been exceptionally impressed with Steph Castle. To me, would probably be 2 or 3 in the rookie of the year race right now. I know what the shooting percentages are. Like you don't have to, that's not one where you have to tell me what they are. Like I know he has a true shooting percentage. It's like 15% below league average, but it really is a thing where like when you watch Steph play, he is way more than what the shooting percentages indicate. And that's exciting. Like that's really, really exciting for Spurs fans. When Steph Castle's on the court, the Spurs are only a minus 0.8. When he's off the court, they're a minus 3. So, he is helping them bit by bit this year, I think.
Yeah, he's a high process player. He's athletic. He really guards. You outlined all of that. He can pass the ball and moves it. I was nervous about the jumper coming in. The jumper's been a little bit that way. Even some of the other finishing, but yeah, I think he's very good. It's just going to come down, like the ceiling comes down. I think we talked about this. Like if you said one of these guys was going to shoot, and I remember who all we were talking about, whether it was Holland, him, whoever, but if you could give shooting to one of these guys and who would have the highest ceiling, and Steph, because of all of the other things he really does well, you make him a guy that really spaces the floor. And it's like, man, there's not a whole lot of weaknesses there. So once he figures that out, it's going to be really good. But like you said, you watch a game, you still feel like he makes a positive impact, even without knocking down shots.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The way he's able to impact the game without scoring is really valuable. I mean, like other guys that have played a lot of minutes, we talked about Tristan da Silva briefly, like, just a guy that really knows where to be all the time, has been super effective in the Orlando like injured situation. Connect is up to like 900 minutes now. Really effective scorer. 9.3 points per game, shooting 46, 35, 81. Just can't do anything else really right now. And it feels like he doesn't always really help them when he's on the court yet. I mean, Isaiah Collier has played a ton of minutes recently for Utah.
And racked up a ton of assists too, right? Like I feel like every time I look, he's like 8, 10, like ton of assists.
Yeah. Do you know who is currently second among the entire rookie class in assists? Isaiah Collier.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny after the way that his season started basically in the G League. I mean, anybody else? I still enjoy the Kyle Filipowski experience. I think he's just a guy that really knows where to be and how to play. I mean, John Mobo has been like fun and switchable, but I do feel like Shead's been a little bit better recently than Mobo. I like both of those guys more than I like Jacoby Walter, but Walter is way younger than them.
My guy Quentin Post getting minutes for the Warriors over the last few.
Post, baby.
Justin Edwards getting minutes for the Sixers.
The last guy that I do want to bring up is Devin Carter, because Devin Carter's now like actually starting to get real minutes. I really enjoy Devin Carter. I do think that the scoring efficiency is going to be a work in progress for him. It feels like.
Yeah, the shooting with him was an interesting one, even coming out of college, right? Because it was like 27%, 30%, and then all of a sudden last year it was 38%. The free throw percentage was better. So it was like, is this just like growth? Like, did he just get better? Was it an outlier year? We've talked about how it's kind of like a moon ball. It's funny, like being on Twitter and people who see him shoot the ball for the first time are like, tweeting about it because it's the first time they've seen him shoot. But it will be interesting. Was it growth? And then now now he's the next level. Things are sped up a little bit. Contests happen faster. And so he's, having to adjust, and then we'll see him bounce back. Or was last year an outlier? I think we both believe in like the defense and a lot of that stuff, but we talked a lot about floor spacing during last year's draft prep, and we continued to have to reference those things with this rookie class.
Yes, we do. That is absolutely true. The floor spacing part of it, and the way that these guys improve as shooters, but also the way that they, are able to fit in lineups as non-shooters is kind of going to be the key for where they end up, in my opinion, and how they end up being successful or unsuccessful in the NBA. Like there were just a lot of non-shooters.
Yeah.
Okay. Bryce, it's time. It's time for trivia. My voice is going, so you're going to have to take over the show here.
I can do that.
We're bringing our fearless leader, GMAC, up to the stage. A true icon, a legend of New York sports.
I'll take it.
Andrew Claudio is here, folks. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, fellas? Bryce, I actually have a gift for you.
Oh, no.
So the game that you care about isn't happened yet. It hasn't started yet. I'm going to say go Bills. So everything
is this a curse? Is this what we're going with?
Everything I root for loses. Obviously, I was a Jets fan, and then I used my diehard opt-out to wait until they got their shit together. If I were a Jet fan, I'd be intrigued by the Aaron Glenn hire, but that's to be determined because it's the Jets. So I jumped on the Lions bandwagon, and we saw what happened to them last week. So then I hopped on the Commanders bandwagon, and they're down by 18 with 12 minutes left. So the wise philosopher known as Taylor Swift once said, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me." And therefore, I've decided to use my powers for good and say go Bills. So that way my friend Bryce has some good juju in the football game he's going to watch this afternoon/evening.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I respect that.
Of course.
Hopefully you win this game.
Hopefully in trivia, I win this game. Yes, exactly.
Okay. We are going to do, we're going back to teams. We're going to do some advanced. So we're talking offensive rating, defensive rating, stuff like that. I will give you guys an option here. I came up with a way to make it a touch easier. So we can do the normal thing. Okay. Top 4. That's it. When you miss one, go to the next guy. Or I found a way to expand it out just a little bit into the top 8 and keep the points a little bit reward if you get a top 4. Do we want to keep it as the same, or we want to make it a touch easier doing offensive rating, defensive ratings?
Keep it as simple as possible for people.
Yes.
Okay. For you guys, you mean everybody else would understand it. Most importantly, I would understand it. Okay. Offensive rating. Top 4, Sam Vecenie, you are up. NBA teams, top 4 in offensive rating. You guys got mad at me last time because I did points per game and stuff like that. So we went to the advanced numbers. Offensive rating.
Yeah. So the Cavs are up here.
Cavs are here. They are number 1.
Oh God, now I'm like really starting to worry. I believe that Andrew's New York Knickerbockers are up there still, right?
They are number 2.
They
I
sure
was
are.
a little bit worried about the Towns stuff now that he's been out or was out for a little while. But yeah, I was a little bit worried there for a second. Okay. Oh man. Is Boston still in there?
Number 3.
Yeah. And then who is number 4 going to be? Number 4 is going to be number 4 is going to be oh God. Oh goodness. Let's go with I'm like really trying to like think through this a little bit, fight through this. It's not the Thunder. It's not the Rockets. I'm like thinking through like good teams now. I don't think it's the Kings either. Oh man.
Andrew
This
looks
is
very
difficult.
confident for what this is worth.
Memphis?
Memphis is a great guess, but Memphis is not the answer.
Denver Nuggets.
Denver Nuggets are the 4th
That was
team.
my other one. Damn
You
it.
you guys went 5 for 5 though. Cleveland, New York, Boston, Denver, Memphis, 1 through 5. That's a great start. I don't know why I doubted you. Why did I try to make the game easier when you guys are this good?
I was gonna say you weren't that far off, Sam.
Very
Yeah.
good. All right. Andrew Claudio, you get defensive rating. Top 4.
Okay, OKC.
OKC is number 1.
Orlando Magic.
They are number 3.
Houston.
They are number 4. So you're missing the number 2 team.
I'm missing the number 2 team?
You are.
Yeah.
I guarantee you Sam gets it if you miss it. Because we have talked about them being good defensively a lot on this podcast.
Dang, I should listen to this show. I'm kidding.
should-
That was a joke. That was a joke.
You should listen to this show because we talk about all the time how good they are defensively.
I don't know if we talk about this team enough for what it's worth.
I would agree.
I'm assuming it's not the team I'm thinking of, which was going to be the Celtics, but I'll just say the Celtics, and then you guys can take the
Celtics
layup.
are not correct. They are 5th. You guys are about to go 5 for 5 on both of these because I am almost 99.9% sure that Sam gets this correct.
I am going to get it. It's the Clippers.
The Clippers.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So the Thunder just like lapping the field at 103.7. So that's what, 3.5. You have to go to them to 2nd is the same as 2nd to 8th. Ridiculous. Then the Clippers, Magic, Rockets, Celtics. All right. Now it's going to get fun. Now you guys are going to wish you took the easier game. Sam Vecenie. I'm looking for the teams that generate the most assists. We are doing top 4 in assist percentage. Top 4
Okay.
assist percentage.
Okay. That's fun.
I will put the over under on a half of correct answers between the 2 of you.
On a half.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I know one.
Okay.
Okay. Oh man. So like now I'm thrown because the very obvious answer here is Denver to me. Because they have Jokic, they move the ball. But you're saying the over under is a half, and that makes me think that Denver is not on this list.
That would be my thinking too, Sam. The mind trick that Bryce just played with us.
Jokic is always the answer.
Oh, see, now he's really playing the mind trick. Now I know he's not the answer this time.
Okay.
Go Bills.
I'm trying to think of like teams that like really move it. I'm going to go with my first answer is actually going to be San Antonio.
San Antonio is on this list. They are actually
Well
number
done.
1. Good job.
Because they really do like actually
They have some
move
fun.
it
They have some fun possessions for sure.
weirdly. Yeah.
That's game.
I think he's talking about.
I'm just talking about the football.
He's talking about the NFL game.
I have the Eagles just sacked Daniels on 4th and 12, so that's game.
I was gonna say I'm not watching the game, but I knew what the score was, and I assumed there
Yeah,
must have been a play
yeah.
that put it away. So
The lot of turnovers for the young Commanders.
Second guess is going to be the Knicks for me.
Ooh.
Knicks are actually middle of the pack.
Okay.
Yeah. They went through a stretch where if they don't hit on their first shot, they get no assists. So they probably fell.
Yeah.
My guess was going to be Atlanta.
Great guess. Good job for you guys.
Yeah.
Atlanta is number 3.
Yeah.
The
good guess.
Nuggets are 5th. So
Okay. Jokic just missed. Okay.
so 2 is the Warriors.
That makes sense. They were actually going to be my next guess.
4th is the Raptors.
Nowhere near. Would have gone through 20 other teams.
Yeah.
Shout out RJ Barrett.
There you go. Yeah, that's true. All right. GMAC, you are up. We are going to offensive rebound percentage. Team offensive rebound percentage.
I know the first 2. I just don't know the next group.
I also know the first 2 as well, because again, Bryce does this thing where maybe it just kind of works out this way, where an answer I get told to give centers around an upcoming Knicks opponent, and the Knicks play Memphis tomorrow. So
yeah,
Memphis is there.
Memphis is number 2 on this list.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming Houston is still 1.
Houston is still number 1.
Okay.
I have no idea who these other 2 are.
These are amazing. It's so much fun.
My next guess.
If I gave you a hint, but I'd give it away.
No. It's okay. Trying to think about teams that miss, like that aren't efficient but might actually have a good offense.
That was going to be my.
So teams that miss. Okay. I am gonna say I may just have. I'll go Orlando.
Not on this list.
Okay.
That's a good guess.
They are last in effective field goal percentage, though.
Again, they
yeah.
miss.
Yeah.
That's where I went with.
Oh God. So teams that miss. Okay. So I'm like running through all of the worst teams. So Toronto, I would say Toronto's interesting because they have Pirtle. Utah's interesting because they have Kessler. Charlotte's interesting. They have Mark Williams, but I don't think Mark Williams played enough. So let's rule them kind of out. I'm going to go Utah because I think that Kessler has probably been a little bit better as an offensive rebounder than Pirtle. It's kind of my theory.
That is team number 3 on this list. So
Okay.
Utah. So went Houston again by a good margin, Memphis then by a decent margin, and then things Utah, Charlotte, Portland, Toronto.
Oh, so Charlotte is in there.
Charlotte would have been.
wow.
Yeah, they were 4th.
I ruled them out. So like, I don't,
Yeah.
that was weird. Okay.
Yep. All right.
So Andrew 6'5" or 7'6".
7-6. Yep. So we're halfway through. We got 4 more. We are going to turnover percentage, and we are looking at the teams that are best, the teams that turn it over the least, not the highest turnover percentage, the teams that have the best turnover percentage in terms of not turning the ball over.
Okay, so this is always Boston.
Boston.
Always Boston category because they
Bo-
just don't. They never turn it over.
Boston is number 1.
Okay. Okay, I'm thinking of like good. I mean, Cleveland has to be here just because the offensive rating is so high that Cleveland has to be here.
They're 4th, but they are on this list.
Okay. I'm going to say OKC.
OKC is 2nd on this list.
And then
Do you know it,
I go-
GMAC?
I know one of them. Again,
Oh, wow. This
yeah.
is this is the
Oh,
hardest one.
yeah. I was going to say the Knicks is actually my next guess.
The Knicks are not. They are 5th.
Damn.
Honestly, when you said the Cavs were 4th, I figured the Knicks were behind the Cavs. So that
They-
gave me that. Sacramento's one of them, though. They
Sacramento. Yep.
Oh,
played the
okay.
Knicks yesterday. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a Doug Christie thing. They just never turn the ball over because they never pass. Like,
Yeah.
they're very heavy isolation with DeMar and well, okay, so they pass like through a hub through Sabonis, but it's very much
Yeah.
drive to put pressure on the rim. Anyway,
Yeah.
Celtics 1st, Thunder 2nd, Kings 3rd, Cavs 4th, Knicks 5th. So,
okay.
all right. 9-8 game. GMAC. We are looking for the fastest playing teams
Wow.
in the NBA, the top 4 in pace of play.
Atlanta.
Atlanta is number 2 in the
Ooh.
NBA.
Chicago.
Good
Yeah, they're gonna be
call.
there.
Yeah.
Chicago is 3rd in the NBA. GMAC takes the lead.
I maybe picking Jokic when I shouldn't again. Denver.
They are 5th. and
Mother.
I guarantee you Sam
I know
gets one. Yeah.
I know who's number 1. Memphis is number 1.
Memphis
Ah.
is number 1. We are tied 10-10 going to our last 2 rounds. Memphis, Atlanta, Chicago, Washington, Denver. You guys have done a great job like staying in the top 5, to be honest. Like we had maybe 1 or 2 answers that got outside of that. So
Who was 4th? You said I didn't even. Or
Washington,
did you say? Oh, okay.
No.
the Wizards.
Okay.
All right, now we're going to get real fun. Sam Vecenie, we are looking for the top 4 teams in the NBA in deflections. Listen,
Okay. Oklahoma City's 1 for
you
sure.
guys don't get mad at me. I gave you a chance to make the game easier and you refused. Oklahoma City is 1st in the NBA.
Like absolutely number 1. And then
Yep.
I'm gonna guess that the Dyson Daniels experience has Atlanta in the top 4.
Number 2.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Oh God.
I looked at my next category and I really screwed you over, GMAC.
Oh, great.
I haven't even, so like this is a number where like I haven't even looked at like the team numbers for this. So like I'm just gonna say Houston or Orlando, and I'm gonna say Houston. Let's go with.
Great guess. They are top 4, 6. They are number 9 on this list.
Okay.
Tied for 8th. GMAC, chance to steal one here. You really need this point because this next category.
Okay.
This next category sucks.
Set the stage. Okay. I'll take the other one. I'll take Orlando.
Great guess. They are 6th. The
Okay.
other 2 teams, Sam went 1-2. The 76ers. Yeah.
Literally would not have been in the top 20. Did I guess?
Kelly Oubre, baby.
Ah,
And the New Orleans Pelicans were 4th.
yeah. Oh, the Herb Jones.
Also,
Okay. Surprised he's still in the top.
maybe would have been in the top 20 that I guessed, but would not have been high.
Raptors, Magic,
Not in the top
Warriors,
10 that I guessed.
Clippers, Rockets. So, all right.
Raptors too. Raptors actually would have been a good guess. Now that you say that, because they play like super up tempo, long arm. I can see that. Okay.
And what do you got for me, Bryce?
I'm so sorry. My bad. Final one. GMAC down 2. We're looking for the remember I told you guys I would make it easier. Top 4 teams in screen assists per game.
OKC.
OKC is not on this list.
Figured Hartenstein might have one. Go ahead.
So
Sam,
let me
win,
think
but try and
through
get
what
before.
this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay,
had no shot.
screen
You're right.
assist.
I have no shot. Goodness gracious.
Who would be setting a lot? I'm thinking of like players that would be high.
So
in
that's
screen
my
assists.
hope. Why I like doing these is I like hearing your guys' thought process of how you try to figure it out, whether it's right or wrong. And so I was curious if you guys would come up with one.
Sabonis runs a ton of like DHO, like hubby kind of stuff. So like Sacramento would be on my list.
They're number one. They're number
one. Okay.
They're number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know what? That makes sense.
Man.
Teams that don't pass, that don't rely on ball movement. They rely on
Yeah,
screens.
and then
heavy
like
ball screen teams.
who needs? Yeah, that was going to be like my next thing, like heavy ball screen teams. So like, I mean, I'm trying to think through like Atlanta, Detroit, Charlotte.
Detroit is 2. Charlotte is 3.
Yeah, like
So Atlanta is actually way low, which is interesting.
that's pretty surprising to me. Yeah, that's actually quite surprising to me. Dallas would be a guess for me.
Top 10.
Okay. I mean, Denver feels like a pretty good guess, honestly. GMAC.
2, 4, 6. 6.
Okay. Who else?
So the Kings, Pistons, Hornets are 1, 2, 3, and then the Warriors are 4th.
Thought about the Warriors. Okay.
And then the Cavs.
Honestly, Warriors would not have been super high for me. So yeah, like that's interesting for sure.
So and then the Cavs were 5th. So Sam, 12 to 10.
Thought
back
about
in the winner
Cleveland.
circle. I love it.
Congrats, Sam. I
love
will continue my Go Bills, but I see you, Bryce. Okay.
My bad.
And I took that personally.
More importantly here, recommendation corner, which somebody has come up with the good idea that we should call, and by the way, we're definitely going to steal this. Call it the Rec Center.
That's good. That's really good.
That's really good.
Well done.
Like the Rec Center is an amazing idea, and we're definitely taking that. So whoever said that in the YouTube comments, I salute you, and I really appreciate you. We're definitely doing this.
It definitely took me 10 seconds to figure out why that worked. And then it finally hit, and I was like, oh, well done.
The Rec Center is an amazing name for this. Okay. Bryce, any recommendations before Andrew and I start talking about movies?
No, I'm about to check out. I did watch a couple movies this week, and they were 2000s sports movies. And so I watched Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
Great.
75th time, but amazing movie. And then I watched Invincible for probably only like the 4th or 5th time, but also come on now.
Really? I hate them.
No, I know. But the 2000s, I need some good sports movies again, because there were just like a lot of good movies. Like I like We Are Marshall, Glory Road. Like there were just so many good sports movies. I need some good sports movies again, but those are the Friday Night Lights, but those were the 2 I watched this week.
Dang, I'm jealous. Yeah.
Those are good ones. Yeah.
Remember the Titans is maybe my favorite, easily my favorite football movie.
It's amazing.
Actually.
It's so good. I
Fake
love it.
23 blast with a backside George reverse. Like your life depended on it.
Yeah. It's there's a lot
I
of
have a sports
one-liners.
movie. I have a sports movie on my top 4 in Letterboxd.
Which
I've got
one?
Warrior sitting there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't
It's a
even know
Pittsburgh
what
movie, baby.
Oh,
We love
no.
Warriors.
Oh, that makes
Shot
sense. Yeah.
Shot literally like at the rival high school that I went to. Like all of the like classroom scenes with Joel Edgerton. Yeah. Okay. Andrew, what have you seen? Because I think you, like me, have been going on like a real run of Oscar movies.
I've been in the lab, as one might say.
Yes.
So I've brought it up over at Nick's Film School, but it's just been so difficult to try and make time to go see The Brutalist. Macri and I, Mr. Jonathan Macri and I, are actually seeing it together next Saturday before our
Good
Knicks
for
Lakers
you.
watch party in Lincoln Center in 70mm. We're making it a bro date. But it's just like trying to find 4 hours, which apparently are well worth it. We couldn't, and this time we're actually finally going to do it. I finally saw Nickel Boys. Pretty powerful of a movie.
I haven't seen it yet. It's not here yet.
Yeah, I won't say anything. It's just buckle up when you do. Saw Den of Thieves 2. I'm here for it. Yeah, just not as good as the first one, but in the same light that I enjoy Ocean's 12 not as much as Ocean's 11, but I still enjoy both, so it's in that vein. As far as Oscar movies are concerned, I guess The Last Showgirl is no longer considered an Oscar movie, as well as September 5th is no longer considered an Oscar movie.
I saw September. Yeah, I saw September 5 this weekend.
Yeah. We got very much my thing with like producers producing productions, so
yeah.
Yeah,
so like September 5, like just for a second here, let's talk about it.
Mhm.
When I watched it, I thought it was really thrilling. I thought so. Bryce, this movie is all about in 1972, this terrorist group kidnapped a group of 11 Israeli coaches and athletes at the Olympics. And it's all about like the ABC Sports production team that was producing the news around it, basically. It's one of those movies where, as I was watching it, I was like, this is cool. This is engaging. Like, I'm on the edge of my seat. This works. And then when I thought about it for like 30 minutes after, I didn't think it hung together really at all.
Why not?
So I felt like it was just missing a lot of the details. So like it's a very real choice from a perspective basis. If you're making this movie to center it on this group of like reporters and newscasters and like these people, right? You could do it from the perspective of the police trying to solve the problem. You could do it from the perspective of the hostages. You could do it, God forbid, from the perspective of the terrorists. You could do it from other athletes in the village. Like there are so many different ways that you could do this movie from a perspective question, right? I felt like it was not nearly detailed enough in the things that matter when you're like actually in a newsroom in that situation. It kind of just like glossed over a lot of the like minutia of things that would be important to discuss in those moments. I think for the sake of just kind of rolling it along and like getting the story going. And so it could be like a 90-minute movie, right? The other thing that bothered me was like, it was really hard for me to understand the perspective of like, how far are they from the situation? How far are the other athletes from the situation? I didn't think the filmmaking was very good. I thought that the story, like I understand it being nominated for, I wouldn't nominate it for best original screenplay, but like I kind of get that a little bit. I didn't think the visual filmmaking was good, even though the set design and some of the other stuff was actually like really, really impressive.
So I think it actually had enough detail for me. I thought the different discussions that they had throughout of what to show, when to be live, when they realize who else might be watching their feed, the back and forth with the other stations, because back then not every station was live continuously. They had to share
that was
live
interesting.
broadcasts.
Yeah.
the judgment calls that you have to make throughout an emergency situation like that had me on the edge of my seats. And like they literally roll the camera out there and then use the camera shots to show where Peter Jennings is throughout the show. They show you what's happening in the studio.
So I have no idea where Peter Jennings is my issue.
Okay.
Because he's not with the camera. He's somewhere else and like hiding in a thing, like hiding in a room somewhere, like with visual access in theory to being able to see what's going on. Like, I don't know where he is, like throughout that.
Did you have to though? Like it was in the field, and then the person that went out to shoot with him was the one showing, like you saw his camera angle, the person that was next to him.
So was it his camera angle, or was it the one that's on the hill where like they're shooting, like they roll the big camera out onto the hill? Because Peter Jennings is not with the big camera. He's with like another camera, I think.
The way you're putting it, I see where you're getting hung up on. Then it can be confusing. I thought it was clear that Jennings had gotten inside the barrier before they had locked it off. They had zoned it off,
right?
And then they rolled out another camera out there so they can get a wide angle of the hotel room, which is what you see on the. And that like the guy that was pretending to be an athlete was running tape out to Jennings throughout the movie. So.
Well, he was clearly running tape out to Jennings
because he was sneaking in pretending he was an athlete.
Right. But like how close, like I wanted like a little bit again, like I just wanted more detail, I guess, than what we got like on like all of that.
Where it worked for me, is that they were trying to show you from the perspective of those in the room. You were getting as much detail as they had, which fair as from the audience perspective. There are pieces of the puzzle missing. I felt we were supposed to have pieces missing, so we felt like they felt. I was confused about what happened at the airport, which
totally that too.
So
but like
are
that
they,
tracks like that. Yeah. Like that doesn't bother me. So I've seen The Brutalist. I will wait for you to see The Brutalist before
next Sunday. I got you. Next Sunday I got you. Okay, I promise. Next Sunday I got you.
It is definitely in my 5 favorite of the year for sure. I also saw another one of my 5 favorite movies this year, Flow.
Okay.
Flow is a Latvian animated movie about a cat who gets caught in a flood. It is so sweet. It is the cutest like thing in the world. It is like, Bryce, honestly, you should show your kids this movie. It is wordless. Like there are no humans, and it's literally just these animals communicating with one another about how to survive in basically a flood. It's unbelievable. I have no idea how this guy did this for like $3 million. It completely breaks my brain. And it's amazing. It's been a really good year for animated movies between this and Wild Robot, both of which will be in my top 5. And I tend not to be an animated movie person by and large. What else have I seen? I saw A Complete Unknown. Have you seen A Complete Unknown yet, Andrew?
I have seen A Complete Unknown. Little known fact about me, I had to tap out on most music because I found sports talk radio and it became my thing. To your benefit, by the way, but the fact that my music taste stops at like 90s, 2000s hip hop, and then I was diving into podcasts and sports talk radio. So these music biopics fly over my head, and I'm borrowing from my wife, who is the biggest music fan. Like, what music fan? She has like a catalog on her Spotify that's extensive. So I'm almost borrowing from how it impacted her, that she has just not stopped listening to Bob Dylan since then. But I can judge the performance with Chalamet is pretty transformative. I thought he was pretty great.
I think Chalamet's unbelievable in that movie. I think Monica Barbaro is unbelievable.
Yep.
Like,
especially when you go look up footage of the woman she's playing, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's her. Okay.
No, she's unbelievable in the movie. As a film, I don't know. Like it's like a 2.5 hour music video was
Yeah.
kind of my take. Like it just, you never go more than like probably 7 minutes without like another Bob Dylan song. You know what I mean? It just goes from like, okay, we're introduced to Bob Dylan. Now he's singing in front of Woody Guthrie. And then, now he goes home with Pete Seeger, and then he's wakes up in the morning and he's doing another song. And that, like, it just keeps going and flowing from one song to the next. And Bob Dylan has such an immense catalog of music that you can do it. I personally still would go Adrian Brody over Chalamet in this movie. I think it's like an amazing, or for the Oscar, like I think it's an amazing imitation of Bob Dylan that he makes his own. Like it's not just that he's trying as hard as he can to only sound like Bob Dylan. Like there's Chalamet in there, is kind of what I would say. Like it's impossible to get as much like rasp in Chalamet's voice as you're going to get with Bob Dylan, right? So I love that, like you can hear that he's singing and it's him, and it's it's transformative from who Chalamet is, but like is different as well from what Bob Dylan is, and that's okay as well, like because it's still a really good performance. I don't think it gives you any information on like who this guy was and like what matters to him.
It's very low stakes too, because there's
totally
there's this climax in the third act where he is going against he's making a choice against what people are telling him to do. And he does something, and it's with it's staged with the question of, well, how will this turn out for Bob Dylan? And it's like, you went to the Bob Dylan movie because it obviously turned out well. So it's almost like you see Air, that the Nike movie from last year. The third act, where it's like, will Michael Jordan choose Nike to represent him? And Matt Damon gives this great speech predicting Michael Jordan's career. Like, the stakes are very low, and I felt the same way watching it. Similar to a movie this year, Saturday Night, the Saturday Night Live movie about the first night. There's a speech in the third act where the Lorne Michaels character is explaining why Saturday Night's going to work and why you should let us do this show. And it's like, gee, I wonder how this turns out. Do they let them do Saturday Night Live and let them have their show? So it's movies like that are very low stakes for me. But I guess if the music hits and you're a big Bob Dylan fan, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. And like, I like Bob Dylan. I wouldn't say I'm like a huge Bob Dylan guy necessarily. Like I'm definitely not a huge Bob Dylan guy compared to like who, a lot of the fans of this movie are. But like I enjoyed the music. I thought the performances were amazing. James Mangold is like a pro. Like he's unbelievable at this stuff. Like the movie looks amazing, obviously. Like all that's really good. It just doesn't dig deep enough into like who this guy is. And look, that's part of it probably. Like the whole fucking title of the movie is a complete unknown. And it's not just him coming to New York. It's, who he is, right? Like he is an unknown quantity as a person in some respects. And for 50 years now, people have been trying to figure out Bob Dylan. I just don't know if I don't even know that this movie makes an attempt at getting at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Someone in the comments, Gregory Castillo, asked, is Gladiator 2 good? Denzel's good in it.
I had a nice time watching it. It's like not an Academy movie. It's a nice blockbuster movie, I thought. Fun.
It's not bad, is what I'll say. It's not bad. Yeah. Probably the worst compliment I could give it is like midway through the movie, it made me want to rewatch the first Gladiator. Like
I think that's right.
It's really the takeaway I have. It's like, oh, this is reminding me of how much I loved Gladiator. I should go watch that. And I will probably never watch Gladiator 2 again. Yeah. But I will obviously it's aggressively fine is probably the best way I could put it. It's not bad. We'll probably be better off just rewatching the first one.
Yeah. So The Brutalist is, my favorite movie of the ones I've seen this weekend. I saw Kingdom of Planet of the Apes. That movie is, I don't know if did you see the new Planet of the Apes movie?
I missed it. Yeah.
So it's nominated for visual effects.
Yeah.
It should be. It looks amazing. Like honestly, pretty good movie. I had a really good time with it. Like Laura and I like really enjoyed watching it. But it looks stunning. It's kind of unbelievable.
If we're doing non-Oscar movies, I'll just
Yeah,
go through the
that's where
because I
was gonna
had a
transition now.
pod last night where we did I got invited to a podcast to do our top 10 of 2024.
We'll do that because when the Oscars are like first week of March.
Yes,
Something
I think
like that.
so. In March.
Yeah.
So
we'll do that like near the end of February because I have like probably 10 other movies I really want to get through.
That's the thing. I still am catching up, but I didn't want to turn down the invitation. So I've been trying to catch up on 2024 movies. Finally saw Alien Romulus, a fine addition to the franchise. We Live in Time. Just
haven't seen it yet.
Be ready for a downer, like be in a good mood. So at least you come back down to
honestly don't know that I'll watch it. Like,
okay.
I might be
It is heavy. And then I saw the Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. I finally saw that documentary. The story
Looks
about
great.
It is heavy, and you really get a sense that some footage I didn't think you were going to see of Christopher Reeve's post injury with his rehab. So Christopher Reeve, excuse me. So it's harrowing because they show you the Superman putting on the cape, how he gets the role and what happens, and then they show the aftermath and the symbol he became after that, in both ways, both as Superman and then as the Superman. So that was great.
So the other movie that I watched this past week that I loved is A Better Tomorrow. Have you ever seen the old John Woo movie, A Better Tomorrow?
I haven't.
From 1986.
No.
So it's like one of Chow Yun-fat's first movies. There has never been any cooler introduction to a character in a movie than Chow Yun-fat lighting money on fire and lighting a cigarette with it. Like, it's just like pure John Woo, like excess and fucking ridiculousness. And it's amazing that this movie was made 40 years ago. And like the gunfighting looks incredible. Like John Woo's ability to stage these action scenes. There's so much, like, if you've ever seen Mission Impossible 2, have you seen the second Mission Impossible, Bryce?
No, he shook his head, by the way, for Derry Answer asking that you speak in the chat.
Yeah, no chance.
Yeah.
So there's like all that slow-mo in Mission Impossible 2, right? The slow-mo still is there in like A Better Tomorrow, but it's like a little bit sped up. It's a little bit quicker. Yeah, I adore that movie. I bought because here's the thing, up until this past week, it has been impossible to get John Woo movies, like the old classics. And John Woo, for people who don't know, he is this like titan of action filmmaking from like Hong Kong back in the 80s and 90s, and then moved to the United States. You know, he made, I believe he made Face Off, right?
Yes.
I'm not mistaken. Like he made Face Off. He made Mission Impossible 2. Like he's made a ton of really important, Broken Arrow, Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like he made a ton of action movies in the United States, but his better portion of his career was over in Hong Kong, where, in the 80s and 90s, he was like a really early person in the action filmmaking scene. And like so many people in America would see these movies and like steal from what he was doing and bring them over to action films in the 90s. And then eventually they just brought John Woo over to do it for Face Off, and for Broken Arrow and Hard Target. But these movies have never been available on physical media. I literally had to import A Better Tomorrow from China to be able to get it. But Shout, a awesome, sort of boutique, I guess I would say they're boutique physical media company, just bought the rights to all of these movies, and they're going to be releasing them over the course of the year. I could not be more excited. I will buy all of them, and we'll be so happy they're all restored in 4K, and we'll just like in the summer zoom through all of these movies if they're out by then. Because they are all the ones I've seen. I've not seen all of them. I have seen Hard Boiled. I have not seen The Killer, which I know is like an incredibly important one. I have not seen Bullet in the Head. Like there are some movies here that are really, really essential to the canon that I want to fill the gaps on.
Okay. Shout out John Woo.
Shout out John Woo.
Bryce,
Okay.
your favorite John Woo movie?
Have you seen Face Off? I feel like you have seen Face Off.
So when you said Face Off, I knew that it was Travolta and the bad actor. What's his name?
Nick Cage. Oh my god.
Oh no, Bryce.
Oh
no.
He did the movie where he was like a on fire guy. Doesn't that movie suck?
That's Ghost Rider.
Okay,
So that movie does suck.
He is not very good in Ghost Rider. That is
okay.
not.
I love him in what are the movies where they chase the treasure? National Treasure. I like those movies.
Yeah.
Those great movies.
To be clear, Nicolas Cage, not a bad actor.
Well,
really good actor.
That
We're
movie
talking,
sucked, right?
Like the movie actor of the 90s. Like one best actor for
What movies?
Leaving Las Vegas.
Never seen it.
Face Off. I think he's tremendous in.
Yeah, Con Air, The Rock, Snake Eyes, 8mm, Gone in 60 Seconds, like
good movie.
All of these just classics, all of them. Then like Adaptation in the early 2000s, and then goes into National Treasure from there. Like just a shout out Nick Cage. Then had to go into the money version of Nick Cage where he'd film. Look, Bryce.
All he said was he hasn't seen it, and we went down. By the way, here's a Nick Cage 101 for you. We're so sorry.
Nick Cage. There are a lot of bad Nick Cage movies.
Okay, so I wasn't being fair in the totality of his acting career.
Yes,
but there are some bad ones though.
He's a volume shooter. He doesn't say no. There's a lot of good shots that go right through the net. He's also potentially 11 for 40.
So he's Jordan
in a
Poole,
lot of games.
Which
there you go.
Sam loves Jordan Poole.
Jordan Poole.
He's not. He is not Jordan Poole. I would say he's probably like Donovan Mitchell more than Jordan Poole.
He's more efficient.
Yes,
I would say he's last year Jalen Brunson.
It might be like Allen Iverson, maybe, where like misses a ton of shots, but like when he's like he is a great, he's like an all-time great because of like the highs being so high.
I feel like there's some wow. Okay.
Oh, there are some bad ones. Like you get into the
There's
2000s, like his 2018 Love and Tosha. That's a documentary. Okay. A Score to Settle, Color Out of Space, which is pretty fun. Running with the Devil, Kill Chain, Primal, Grand Isle. I've watched more of those movies than I care to admit. But I would say that there is really only one good movie out of the 7 that he did there in that year.
He had a great decade, which I should give more respect to.
Yes.
He had a great decade, and he's had like a really good last few years where he's done Pig and then into Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which he plays himself basically, into Renfield, and then into Arcadian was actually like kind of a fun little movie. And then Long Legs this year was quite good.
I only liked of the movies that were mentioned, Pig, Bryce, but Sam, take either one of our recommendations.
I will not watch any of these movies.
I figured. Yeah.
We should make Bryce watch Long Legs.
No. I just want to know that you watched Con Air, and not Con Air. Well, Con Air is good. That you watched Face Off, because that's my favorite of his.
Listen, I don't care about NBA awards, so I really don't care about actor and actress. Yeah, I couldn't tell you whether they're Oscars, Emmys, or Golden Globes. I have no clue.
Have you seen Con Air?
No.
You should watch Con Air. Con Air is genuinely like a movie that I think you would find very fun.
This summer project. Yeah.
I think I've watched Face Off. Like I think I can't, but if I watched it, I don't remember what happens. So
yeah. Okay.
They swap faces off.
Yeah. I think I've watched it.
Okay.
I don't remember. I literally couldn't tell you. If you're like, I'll pay you $1 million to tell me what happens in the movie, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Man, I need to. The other thing I watched was the Elton John documentary on Disney because it is also nominated for an Oscar. And I found it very kind of boring.
I think the best movie we talked about today was Remember the Titans, personally.
And who brought that one to the table?
Shout out Bryce. There you go.
Guy.
Left side.
Strong side.
Left side.
Strong side.
Left side.
Strong side.
Ah!
I wasn't doing the last part.
I want a victory.
Just wait until. Honestly, I would probably take Remember the Titans over A Complete Unknown and September 5, like both of which got Oscar nominations. So I'm definitely with you on this.
I repeat.
Just wait until you see The Brutalist.
Well, The Brutalist is a whole different ballpark because it might win. But the best movie we talked about today was Remember the Titans. So
it's probably true. Andrew, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Find Nick's Film School wherever podcasts are available, wherever YouTube channels are available. On social at Nick Film School. Check out our newsletter on Substack. Find me at AndrewJClaudio_. Just plugging this. About 28 days away from Pitchers and Catchers. So if you'd like to subscribe to Mets Therapy, you can. And all the places that you get YouTube and social and podcasts. And then, of course, as we've been just talking about movies for the last 25 minutes, I'm at AndrewJClaudio_ on Letterboxd as well. You can watch along with me as I try to see as much as I can from the year 2024 before the Oscars is officially my deadline for when I move on to 2025.
Yeah, I'm up to, I think, 96 now from 2024. So I'm rolling along. I've got a couple more this week. I'll do definitely A Different Man, definitely a Nora, and definitely Maria in the next couple days before we podcast again on Thursday or Friday. So we'll have some more to talk about then. Is there anything else I need to do? Oh, shout out to Madison Keys, by the way, winning the Australian Open. Like one of the coolest stories in sports to me. Like Madison Keys turns pro as a tennis player at 14 years old. She's seen as like this absolute prodigy to like follow in the steps of Serena Williams and Venus Williams. And it takes her 15 years to win a Grand Slam. She's 29, about to turn 30. She literally like made a final, I think at the US Open in 2018, 2017, maybe even, and made a semifinal when she was 19 in Australia. And she's just gotten hurt and been a little bit inconsistent. You run your own race. That's what it comes down to. You run your own race and you eventually win a Grand Slam and reach your goals and your dreams. And that was one of the coolest things. That was probably the coolest thing I saw in sports this weekend. I will say that. Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work.
At Motor City Hoops on Twitter, Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack. Again, if your favorite team is the Pistons, I have notes and video on them as well. So check that out. The Pistons Pulse podcast, Game Theory podcast with Sam Vecenie. I will leave you guys with this. I was listening to a podcast today that said that we should not give Oscars out till 4 years later, 5 years later, and then see if a movie actually has staying power. And they were arguing Forrest Gump versus Shawshank Redemption, which I found an interesting argument, even as somebody who doesn't care about movies but loves Shawshank.
Just do it both. Like do both things. In my opinion.
There you go. I like it.
The correct answer is Pulp Fiction.
They also brought up Pulp Fiction.
To be clear, yes.
I've never seen it, so I will stay with Shawshank.
Forget every recommendation we gave you today. See Pulp Fiction.
I'm trying to decide if I think Bryce would like Pulp Fiction, honestly.
I think it's just essential watching. Like, to be able to have an opinion on Pulp Fiction is the gift I'm giving you.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
I just bought the new 4K Pulp Fiction.
You know what? Excited. I'll just watch Remember the Titans again.
You know what? Not a bad decision.
Truly, Bryce, I'm telling you, I think you should watch Con Air. It's simple. It's a good time. Like, I think you would enjoy Con Air. Okay. Go to The Athletic. Tomorrow, I will have 5 trades that I, came up with. Basically, they're non-Jimmy Butler trades. They're just trades I want to see at the deadline. Some of them are simple, like getting the Cavaliers a big man. Some of them are, more like what I talked about with the Spurs getting Cam Johnson, like, bigger trades, smaller trades, everything like that. Go to The Athletic. I will also have something coming throughout the week, probably on the deadline. Let's be honest. There will be trades that happen. We'll talk through them. Let's see. I'll do a video on Kel'el Ware at some point today. That'll be exciting. And then beyond that, that's really all we've got here. Go subscribe to all of the social media platforms that Andrew, Jay, Claudio, GMAC himself is doing an amazing job running. X, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, all great platforms, all great places you can follow the Game Theory podcast. Game Theory Sam V is the handle there. That's all we got, folks. Until next time, we'll talk soon.